Crush on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local.
Why are you gonna miss? He struck him out.
We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
All right, everybody, welcome in. Try this again. Kev, can you hear me? All right, let's try this. Let's act like I've done this before. You know, it's almost like you have to have the levels up. You have to have the volume up to be able, it's only my third straight day working from home. So there you go. If everyone out there who's not named Mike, good afternoon and happy Friday. Justin Kinner, Kevin Nash with you here heading in to the weekend. Kev, you shared that clip on Twitter. I was too busy screaming. I didn't even realize he called me a fat ass twice.
Man, so we were texting about it. We were texting about it later on that evening or whatever, and I didn't hear it either. So I went to grab the clip from YouTube and everything like that, and I chopped it down to that part where you guys are going at it, and then I heard it. I was like, oh snap, I didn't even hear it. I would have definitely hung up on him if I'd heard him call you that the first time, but yeah, he got you with it twice.
No, and I deserved it. I deserved it. I did. I called him a moron. That was childish.
I have to say, how many times you called him a moron.
They're more infatuated by the way he pushes your buttons than mine. Because I pop off on everybody. I'd pop off on a priest if he ticked me off. I mean, you're always so cool, calm, and collected. Mikey's the only one I know that can get under your skin.
Yeah, because some of these takes, a lot of his takes are just off the wall, man. Just off the wall. Like the whole, interim coach thing with Coach Day and everything like that. I think he's doing pretty well at Ohio State. And this whole situation where we're talking about how UD is playing basketball currently, and this first reaction that says, well, Wright State sucks. It's like, well, that has nothing to do with anything. That has nothing to do with anything. Well, no. The fans. There's more fans. There's more. Like, look, man, we love the fans of UD. We love UD basketball. It's all good. You can like multiple things at one time, and I just don't understand why he has to go directly to that. Like, we didn't even lead up to that. Like, it wasn't even a conversational thought. It's like, oh, UD lost to Lipscomb or whoever the heck they lost to. Well, the Wright State got blew out by Purdue. And I'm like, what does that have to do with how UD is playing basketball right now? That has nothing to do with I can't 20-something% from three.
I did kind of start it though. I lied yesterday. Whenever I said I never mentioned that, I did take a dig. When Ohio State played at Xavier. I may have. Might have, but it is what it is. It's our show, not his. So there's that. So we have that going for it. Hey, by the way, Schlemmer, shout out to Mark. He says, turn the heat up so Kev can take off his blizzard hat. You look like, is it hot in that studio, Kev?
No, it feels good today. Normally it's blazing in here or cold in here, but it feels good in here today.
Schlemmer remembers we had that big old box fan. And we'd have that thing rolling 12 months of the year.
I did want to ask you one more thing about the whole Mikey situation. What was the reaction that you were getting? Because, we didn't
Chris,
talk about that.
thank you real quick. Chris said, Justin, you're echoing like crazy. Chris, I think I got it fixed. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. What was that?
What was the reaction you were getting from the Mikey debacle?
Mikey's one of the few people that can get everybody that usually dislikes me to take my side on something, even if they agree with Mikey. Because there was a lot of people that usually are saying what Mikey's saying. But anyways, look, I say this every time. Mikey knows how to get under both of our skins. He always gets that reaction he's looking for. And we got the reaction I guess I was looking for. I don't know. Is what it is. I called him a moron. He called me a fat butt. So it is what it is. And I'm sure he'll call in the near future. I'm going to lift my band. He is allowed to call in again. It is what it is. Hey, so Dan Patrick. And this is what amazes me about media today. And look, I'm not as locked in. I don't have all these sources. I don't have all these contacts that some of these guys have. And I'm not saying half these guys make it up, but I mean, it is insane to me, Kev, how many people hide behind my sources, my sources. And I get it. There is that unwritten, I mean, look, when it comes to, you're not allowed to, give up your sources and everything like that. But that is such a weak way to hide behind throwing out information that doesn't have to get fact checked, that if you end up being wrong, you just get to chalk it up to, well, my source was wrong. How many times do you get to say, according to my sources, and the information that you spew after, if it's wrong, do we get to keep believing you and your sources? Now, I'm not ripping Dan. I love Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick's one of the main reasons I wanted to get into this business. Between Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, I love all those guys. And coincidentally enough, those two, they bump heads. They don't really care for one another. But I am tired of hearing the my sources thing. Because, Kev, I honestly, if I have a take that I want to make, I could just say my sources, fill in the blank with what I want my narrative to be, and arrange my narrative that way. Now, Dan Patrick is way too dang good at his job for me to accuse him of making this up, but sometimes you do. Like, even if you trust the person you're getting information from, you do have to sit back and logically try to put the puzzle pieces together and say, okay, the information that this person I trust that's giving me, does it make sense with everything that's out there? And Dan Patrick today said that according to his sources, that we could see a 12-team college football playoff as early as 2022. So, am I against that? No. Do I prefer the 14 playoff? Absolutely, yes. I don't want to do a repeat segment. We've done this a million times of share why it should be 4, why it should be 12, why it should be 6 or 8, and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're Dan Patrick, to just come out and say, according to my sources, especially when we all know that ESPN is the tightest media outlet when it comes to the information that breaks about the playoff, how could Dan Patrick release that information and no one within the ESPN umbrella have any clue what he's talking about? Many people have come out and said that Dan Patrick's sources are bogus, that playoff is at least locked into at the very least 2024, and that ESPN and prior commitments to bowl games and everything else, there's too many dates locked in. Now, if you want something to happen, you can make it happen. I just don't think that the current format is broken enough to even go that route. But I am curious, how much credence do you put into his sources that say we could see a 12-team playoff as early as 2022?
Dan Patrick definitely has sources. To be in the business and to be as successful as he's been throughout his entire career, he definitely knows people on the inside, not only just the NBA, NFL, and college football. I do believe he has sources, and I do believe like a lot of the things that he tells his audience, he does hear. But just like everything else, a lot of stuff starts out as discussion. And just because something is a discussion doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. They could be floating that idea around. Like, yeah, man, that's what I'm hearing. They've been talking about it quite a bit. Like they might be trying to bring it in 2022, just based off of how this season is playing out, because there's a lot of teams like jumbled after 3. It's like, all right, we kind of know the best 3 teams, but man, teams 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, like how do we tell out of those who's the best of those? So like that's probably like the conversation that I think that's going on. Like, yeah, they're talking about it, but is it really going to happen? That's a whole different story. So yes, I do believe they're having those conversations about potentially expanding the playoff. And I do believe Dan Patrick definitely does have sources.
And I believe he has sources. Like he has sources that I couldn't even tap into. I'm a no-name host in Dayton, Ohio. I don't pretend to be anything other than that no-name host in Dayton, Ohio. I burn bridges left and right. So I don't have a whole lot of people that I can kind of reach out to get any kind of inside information on anything locally here in town. Let's just put it that way. But you got to consider his sources and how he's getting that information, that where that there's so many other people who are just as much in tap with what's going on with that too. But it's crazy to me how often he breaks these my sources storylines and then they never end up being accurate. They never end up being right. Now I do know that in this business, a lot of times you will see people who will drop these lines, or they'll drop information. They'll use us, they'll use the media as pawns, where they'll give you some tidbit of information, knowing that you're going to drop it, so they can gauge the fan interaction. They can gauge the interaction or the reaction in general, and go from there. And they kind of get a little bit of a sample size of what the reaction is going to be, so they can kind of prepare for it. I don't know if that's what this is. We've been hinting at this expansion for the playoff for quite some time. That's really what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. Is it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. But the source thing does get old. I can't stand in media the my sources thing. I think it is the worst thing about media, and not just sports media, but media in general. My sources. I can make up anything I want. Now, you could sit there and say, well, there's not a whole lot of journalistic integrity there. But again, how do you gauge what journalistic integrity is when there's no fact checking going on? When all I have to say is my sources said, fill in the blank. If my sources are wrong, then what? I just get to say, you got that's on me, guys. My bad. I trust my source, though. My source is wrong, but I trust him. And then wait a week, and then I'll use my same trusty source once again. I just get tired of that game. Put your name to it, or shut up. Or if you can't put the name of the person that gave you that information, then don't share it. Don't share it. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous of Dan Patrick to do that on more than one occasion. And until it happens, I don't want to hear about my sources. There's a lot of different ways to go. Oh, I read an article. According to my sources. I talked to people. I ran into someone at Walmart. I ran into someone at the grocery store. That just doesn't make any sense. Billy Wright says his sources were right all last year during the COVID cancellation for the Big Ten season last year. But Billy, he wasn't even the first one to come out with that. There was a lot of people coming out with that beforehand. But he was one of the bigger names to come out with that on his platform on the show. But regardless, it's not really so much a Dan Patrick thing. It's just in general. I could just sit here and drop all this information out there about, well, according to my sources, I heard we're going to have an 18-team playoff. In fact, I'm going to do that. Kev, according to my sources, 12 teams isn't enough. 18. According to my sources, we're going to have an 18-team playoff. That's what's going to happen. According to my sources. Don't argue it. Don't question it. If it doesn't happen, it's okay, because my sources were wrong.
So
you heard it here first.
in the sports broadcasting business, I think those lines are blurred, because in the actual print business or journalism business, you do kind of like have to hide your sources and everything like that, because if you don't have those sources, they won't give you that insight information and everything like that anymore. So you want the journalists to cite their sources too, like as a term paper?
I mean, but at least that you have a link and you know where to go to. I mean, when you put it in a works cited page, you know exactly where to go to find out if I just BS'd that information in my report or not.
Okay. I dig what you're saying, and I also do agree with you. Like, some of these companies or businesses or whatever, they do leak things out to prominent people in the media to, let it out to the people and see the feedback. Like, it's an easy way to get feedback instead of paying, a company to, do a site survey and everything like that. You tell a very popular person in the media and hey, put the filler out there and see the reaction. And there's no better place to get a reaction than on Twitter, especially a show as popular as Dan Patrick's show. You listen to a show, you type in #DP, and you can just see the instant reaction to any topic that he's talking about. So it is a cool way, or dangerous way, to be perfectly honest, to gauge a lot of people's feedback and everything like that. I call it dangerous because, it's dangerous because you're only looking at the feedback of people on, social media. There's so many people out there that consume media that don't interact on social media. So it is a catch-22.
12-team college football playoff, thumbs up, thumbs down. We don't have to go deep into this. If it happens as early as next year, it's not a bad thing. I'll give it a thumbs up. Not going to lose sleep over it. I still think what has made this year so fun is every week there's so much unknown. Every week there's so much riding on the line. Like Cincinnati, I know they don't appreciate the fact that there's so much unknown regarding their future, but at the end of the day, it leads to a more entertaining big picture. And that to me is what I find most intriguing about the 4 team. playoff as far as that's concerned. 12 team, it's going to lead to 10 times bigger matchups, bigger brands going head to head come bowl season or come playoff time. I get that. But I think for me I guess let me ask you this, Kev, what needs to happen for a 12-team playoff to be successful? Because if you water down the regular season, which there's not an argument out there that I'll accept that it won't, because it will. But if the outcome is the playoff games are so good that it makes it worth it watering down the regular season, what does that end result need to be? I'm a person that doesn't necessarily believe that more is better. I'm still wish-washy on the extra spot in the NFL playoffs and everything like that. When you have a finite of things, that means you're getting the elite of the elite. The college football expansion to the playoff talk to go from 4 to 12, that's a lot. That's a lot to me. I mean, that's more than double, obviously. But the only reason I think this is even a conversation is because of the jumbled mess that we have at 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And those teams probably will make good matchups, but will the matchups that the 1, 2, and 3 seeds play, will those result in good matchups? Because that's what you really want. You want to have good, compelling football. You want to have entertaining games and everything like that. You don't want blowouts. And we get blowouts as is. We had a blowout in the national championship last year, and I don't think anybody out there thought that Ohio State and Alabama weren't the two best teams in the country, and we got blew out. You know what I mean? So, and we blew out Clemson, and there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Clemson was one of the best 4 teams in there. So I think if they go from 4 to 12, man, I think they're asking for the regular season to be very diluted and very NFL-esque. Well, kind of like, all right, we already have the one mulligan. Everybody basically in the Power 5, you're allowed one mulligan game. You're allowed to lose once. But if you lose 2, that's it. But now, if you expand it to 12, you're going to have teams in there with 3, maybe even 4 losses. And that is definitely going to water down the sport. All right, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. Kev Nash and I will step away for a few moments. I want to transition this portion of the conversation to a question that Kev had asked me earlier in the week that, we didn't have time to get into because I was too busy being a child and name calling with Mikey. Let's look at this year's playoff. Let's look at the 7 to 8 teams who are the most realistic as far as the teams who are in position to make this postseason. Which team is facing the most pressure to make the playoff? What I mean by that is if this particular team misses the playoff, it could have a huge impact on the perception and direction of the program. For instance, I don't think there's a whole lot. Ohio State, there's always pressure for them to make the playoff. We've seen them miss the playoff in the past. It doesn't impact recruiting. It doesn't impact the perception of who they are. I'll be honest. I don't think that there's pressure on Ohio State to make the playoff. If they miss it, it's unfortunate. But I don't think it changes the direction of who Ohio State is or who Ryan Day is moving forward. But there are programs who I believe desperately need to make the playoff, and they need to make the playoff this year. Who are those teams? I'll tell you who my teams are. Kev will give you his. Give us yours. 518-1410. Which programs are facing the most pressure to make the playoff this year? So where if they miss it, it could have a lot of negative ramifications for the perception of that program moving forward. 518-1410. We're also live on Facebook. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook and let us know who your teams are if you don't feel like calling in as well. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear and sunny, a high near 43. Tonight will be partly cloudy, a low near 30, and tomorrow will be mostly cloudy, a high near 50. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane, making buying propane easy since 1952, offering budget billing and pre-buy options. Find out more at culletpropane.com.
Hi, I'm Sales Manager Jason High at Germain Honda Beaver Creek, proud recipient of the prestigious President's Award. We are your local Honda dealer, and we invite you to see our newly renovated state-of-the-art facility. You'll be amazed at our selection, and remember, all new Hondas come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit us at Route 35, just east of 675, conveniently located near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, the right car, the right price, the right way. I'll see you soon.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get in on the action. Well, no more, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide, with plans starting at just $35 a month with no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for only $299, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required, actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
After a whole month of pro values, Lowe's Provember event is ending soon. But pros like you still have time to save. Plus, when you become a pro loyalty member now through November 24th, you'll get a welcome kit via mail, Lowe's bucket included. It's all part of Provember, going on online and in stores. Lowe's, the new home for pros. New accounts only. More terms and conditions apply while supplies last. Visit Lowe's.com/pro loyalty for details. U.S. only.
Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street are huge supporters of the Dayton Flyers. Whether you're one of the 13,000 fans cheering on the Flyers at UD Arena or one of the hundreds of fans packed inside Tim's on game day, there is only two places that you can feel the passion of the Flyer faithful more than anywhere else. Timothy's Bar and Grill is also a sponsor of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash in the afternoons and the Talking Out Loud Hour on Thursday nights with Sully. Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Go Flyers.
For the ones who are always in the know.
Delivery confirmed.
For the ones who keep things running. For the innovators and the problem solvers. Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, experienced staff at local branches, and free access to experts to help answer your toughest questions. So whatever challenge you face, we have the knowledge and products to help. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
In college football, Goodyear knows a new season means new possibilities, where every Saturday is an opportunity on the road to greatness. No matter if you're out there playing your hardest or cheering the loudest from the sidelines, tailgating in the parking lot, or your favorite spot to watch the game, Goodyear knows passion is what drives us forward all the way to the playoffs. That's the road that moves us. Goodyear, more driven.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get in on the action. Well, no more, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide, with plans starting at just $35 a month with no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for only $299, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required, actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Attention Class A CDL drivers. Looking to be more than just a number? Yoel Transportation in Dayton is looking for drivers with at least 1.5 years experience. Yoel has open positions for no-tarp flatbed drivers and no-touch regional or local van drivers. Yoel is ELD compliant and offers 401k with match, medical, dental, vision, holiday pay, vacation, safety bonuses, and now has a rider policy. Call Rick or Joe at 937-294-5933 and ask about the $5,000 sign-on bonus today.
Whether you're vaccinated or not, it's important to know the symptoms of COVID and its variants. Fever is the leading sign of COVID and the flu, so make sure you use an accurate thermometer. Only the Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer has been proven accurate, with more than 100 clinical studies. Non-contact thermometers have no clinical evidence behind them, and you cannot rely on them. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Finding the right Medicare plan may feel impossible, but now it's anything but. With Walgreens Find RX coverage tool, you can compare plans online, over the phone, or in person, making Medicare easier than ever. Easier than picking which true crime doc to watch, figuring out that Wi-Fi password, or putting the duvet cover back on. So if you can do those things, with Find RX coverage, you can definitely Medicare. Find the plan that's right for you by visiting walgreens.com/Medicare.
Bags under your eyes? That's junk sleep. And Mattress Firm can help. Shop the Black Friday sale and save up to $500 on top-rated mattress brands like Sleepy's.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Something I want to get into coming up here in the next hour, something that I think leads to a lot of arguments on this show and really in the vast majority of all sports arguments, is I think that the angle in which people come from with their sports opinion is all based on their perception of their team and the expectations on the year. And I think depending on what your expectation is on your team is really honestly how you kind of view everyone else's opinion on whether they're right or wrong. And Kev, can we kill that music a bit?
My bad.
So, for instance, like depending on your expectations for who the Dayton Flyers should be this year, it might be different from somebody else's expectation for the program. While some are looking at it from, they're a young team and they have, a lot of inexperienced players. Others look at it as, well, this roster should not be that young. They should not be that inexperienced, that's on coaching, and that, you could still be a good coach even if you're right. Everyone has a different perception of who the team is. So what I want to get into in hour 2 around the corner is what are fair expectations for not just Dayton, but for all of our teams. We'll go down the Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, Flyers, Raiders, Blue Jackets. It don't matter. I want to compare our expectations for our local teams, or at least the teams we talk about the most locally, to what you believe those expectations are, and try and figure out where the gap is or the miscommunication is that leads to a lot of our arguments. It's like a Dr. Phil episode today. We're going to try and piece together where the disconnect is between all of us, because I think if we could pinpoint where the miscommunication is coming from, I think a lot can be. I see it every day in our Browns and Bengals debates as far as what our expectations are. Even if I don't like your team, I view your team as having a certain level of expectations that need to be reached. And if they don't reach it, it's considered a failure of a season. You may be looking at it differently, and that's where we butt heads. So we'll get into that coming up next hour, just to give you a heads up. But college football playoff, we're heading into the final 2 weeks. In fact, we're less than 2 weeks now, technically, of the regular season. I mean, tomorrow's technically the second to last college football Saturday of the regular season. Championship Saturday coming up a few weeks from now. The game. I talked to Paul Keels today, actually. Paul Keels, the voice of the Buckeyes, he's going to kick off our build-up to the game on Monday. We'll be lining up interviews, of course, with Jim Tressel and some other big names next week. Bobby Carpenter and the build to the big game a week from tomorrow. But before we get to that, we got to get through this game within this matchup with Michigan State. That's for sure. But the college football playoff, the rankings, every week they come out. Every week we have these hard, hot take opinions about who should be ranked where and how dare this team be ranked ahead of this team. And I can't believe the Bearcats are getting more love. They're better than this team. All of that. But the thing is, the reason we're all fired up about it is because we know how tough it is to make the playoff. Ohio State's one of the top programs in the country every year. They don't make it every year. Clemson isn't going to make it this year. Outside of that, Alabama's the only team, I believe, Kev. Has Alabama made it every year? If they haven't, they've only missed it once.
Yeah, they've only missed it once, if that.
So we sit here and we always say, it's the same 3 teams every year. And it's actually not. It's the same 3 or 4 teams we're talking about every year. But ultimately, it really has not been the same teams every year. Shaw says they have made it every year. Okay. So outside of Shaw, thanks. Outside of Alabama, Kev, no team has made it every year. So we sit here and say, we need a 12-team playoff because we're sick of the same teams making it every year. If anything, I think it works in the opposite, Kev. I think you go to 12 teams, I think the same 10 of the 12 will always make it.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's really a hot take. I think that's pretty damn accurate, actually. It's tough to make the 14 playoff, which means when it's tough to make it, there's so much on the line. And we tell you how important it is to make the playoff, that if you don't make the playoff, you're kind of viewed as a team that didn't have a successful season. Whether that's accurate or not, that's up to how you perceive things. But ultimately, 365 days a year, we talk about the college football playoff, to where if you don't make the playoff,
You're not relevant. That's why bowl season doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't have as special of a feel anymore because that just feels like that's like the NIT of today at college basketball. It's like the CBI. You know what I mean? Like college football or the New Year's Day bowl games are the equivalent to the NIT, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal. It's not the NCAA tournament. You still watch it. There's still some intriguing matchups in there. It's not the NCAA tournament. It's not the playoff, but there's some intriguing matchups there. And if you're not playing on New Year's Day, that's the CBI. That's those ancillary little tournaments that nobody gives a rip about. So with that being said, as I currently sit here now, the college football playoff is such a big deal because if you don't make it, your season's considered a failure, and it's so tough to make it. Who are the 4 teams right now facing the most pressure to make the playoff this year, to where if they don't make it, it can have a huge impact on the negative perception of them? That could impact recruiting. It could get a coach fired. It could impact, players could decommit and hit the transfer portal. I mean, it really does impact so much. We know how important it is to make the NCAA tournament in college basketball. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what you do when you get there. As long as your athletic director has a coach that's getting your team there every year, who really cares? Sure, you might be ticked off when you lose in the first or second round in March, but ultimately, once you get to July and get a couple months out from tipping off the season, you just get to say, hey, we were a tournament team last year. That's kind of where we're at with the playoff. Who cares if you get blown out? Ohio State got beat 31-0 years ago. We forget about that, and every dang year we're right there in the conversation. It doesn't matter. But there is a lot of pressure on certain teams who desperately need to make it to prove that they belong at the adult table. Kev, I'm going to let you start. Who are the top 4 teams that are facing the most pressure? Not the top 4 teams to make the playoff, the top 4 teams that are facing the most pressure to make it.
Number 4 for me is Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma because of the Lincoln Riley talk. Lincoln Riley is always connected to the Dallas Cowboys. It's always connected there. And now with so many other openings in college football.
Real quick, Kev.
Go ahead.
Kev, sorry, Alabama. Seashaw, I try to give you credit. And Ran Go Blue on YouTube says Alabama did not make the playoff in 20. They beat Michigan in the Citrus Bowl that season, 35-14. Seashaw, that's even your team. Back to our regular scheduled programming with Kev.
That's right, because that was the year Tua got hurt, and then Mac Jones got a lot of run.
Who? Mac Jones.
And now Mac Jones is winning a lot of games in the NFL. Great for everybody. With the Patriots, nonetheless. Great for everybody. But yeah, number 4 for me is Oklahoma because of Lincoln Riley, because he's always connected to the Dallas Cowboys. And now with so many other openings in college football, like LSU that he's being connected to, USC that he's being connected to, if they don't make it to the college football playoff, you don't have anything to hook them in. Like, well, look, coach, we're almost there. We're just one win away from playing for the national championship, or this play went wrong. We could have won the game. All those other suitors out there that want his services could get him, could take him. And then you're looking at Oklahoma going into the SEC in a couple years with a new tenured coach, because, he was groomed to be the next head coach out at Oklahoma. So I got them coming in at number 4. Number 3 for me is Oregon, much for the same reasons that I had Oklahoma. Mario Cristobal, his alumni, he went to Miami. He played on the U back in the days with Jimmy Johnson and everything like that. He's a great offensive line coach, but also he's a great recruiter. He's from Miami. So Miami's having the continual downward spiral and everything like that. So they could come calling, coming home type of situation. And not only that, they're carrying the weight of the Pac-12 because UCLA and USC aren't up to snuff. So all the pressure is on Oregon all the time to come through and come up with big wins in non-conference games, or even to make the college football playoff. So I would say Oregon comes in at number 3. Number 2 for me is Michigan. And it's Michigan because of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has been there for quite a while. And every time that they're in this situation where they could make the playoff, they don't make the playoff. And every time you get closer to making the playoff, you end up running into Ohio State and not making it. That's going to continue to scar the program. That's going to continue to affect recruiting and everything like that. And then eventually, more Michigan fans are going to feel like our buddy Shaw and want him out of the paint. They're going to want him out. And then where do you go? Because you got a Michigan, man. Matter of fact, your last 2 head coaches have been Michigan men, with Brady Hoke, and then you get Jim Harbaugh. Like, who else you gonna call Desmond Howard? You gonna call Tom Brady to be the head coach? I don't know what you're gonna do. So they're at number 2. But number 1 for me is Georgia. Georgia hasn't won a national championship since 1980. I'll say it again, 1980. That's the last time they won a national championship. All these top 3 recruiting classes that you had over the last 8 years, and you haven't got a national championship yet, that's pressure. That's pressure on Kirby Smart. That's pressure on every single player. And that offense is very, I don't know how to say this without disrespecting one of my favorite coaches of all time, Jim Tressel-esque, because it is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And I'm sure all the fuddy-duddies love this offense. But in 2021, you got to score more points. You got to be more explosive than they do. I don't even think they have a 5-wide formation at Georgia. So if they're unable to win the national championship with this knockout defense, with, Mel Kiper having 8 of those dudes on his hot board going in the first round and everything like that, if you're not able to capitalize on yet another great recruiting class, it's a bust. It's a bust. So those are my top 4. Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, Oklahoma at 3, and Oregon at 4.
I'm surprised no Bearcats.
No.
Because that's the team to me that is, and they're my number 1 team. So if you're just tuning in, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here. Excited to be with you on a Friday. Heading into tomorrow, second to last college football Saturday of the regular season. The playoff selection Sunday coming up just around the corner. And I'm really curious, as we're getting closer and closer to that, the pressure is starting to kind of build on some of these teams. Some of these teams, we're already seeing the pressure start to get to them. And that's why we've seen so many upsets this year is we see it in the NFL too. You'll see a team, like the Bengals get that huge win over the Ravens. They lose to the Jets. All right, we annoyed a team. The Browns get that big win over the Bengals, and everyone thinks that they're back. No OBJ, no problem, right? And then they don't just lose; they get beat down. Like, that's the NFL. I get it, but even in college, how many? We watch. We'll see Iowa, who's number 3 in the country at one point, and they look atrocious right now. Penn State has 4 losses. And they were in the top 3 not even a few weeks ago. Every time we think we have a team figured out, the pressure gets to them. And you could say, well, I don't think it's the pressure that gets to them. I just think that they were not ranked correctly. Even if they're not ranked correctly, there comes a lot of pressure. Like when we talk about opponents, when they see that number in front of your name on their schedule, you see it too. Mm-hmm. Your team sees it. Well, if you're Ohio State, you're used to, that team they're used to that pressure. Alabama, even the Georgias, those teams are kind of used to it. It's nothing new to them. So when you're in Iowa, there is pressure. When you're at Penn State, there is pressure. And those are your bigger Power 5 schools. For Cincinnati, there is a whole lot of different kind of pressure on them, and here's why. Iowa, you're just another Big Ten team. You make the playoff, super. If you don't make it, that's fine. It's no sweat to the Big Ten because they have Ohio State, right? The non-Power 5 schools, every single one of those teams are right now on the shoulder pads of the Cincinnati Bearcats. They are facing the most pressure of any team to make the playoff. And the reason is because everyone right now is looking at them saying, hey, man, you're representing us. You're the face of us little guys. All right. You have to make the playoff. You're fighting for us. This isn't just fighting for the Bearcats. You're fighting for us. Now, you're probably saying, well, who cares? Because the Bearcats, they're a Big 12 team now, or they will be here in the coming years. They probably don't view it that way. But I do know this. I think that the Bearcats face the most pressure of any team to make the playoffs this year, mainly because they're fighting for all the non-Power 5s. They're fighting to end the stigma that, these non-Power 5s aren't good enough to make the playoff. But yet they're already folding to it. Yes, they're winning, but they're not winning pretty. And I believe that the direct result of that is there's no secret at all that within a couple weeks of the first poll coming out, that's when we started seeing Cincinnati really clamp up and start to play a little poor. Yes, they're winning. And that's really all that matters. But as we know, style points do matter. And that's really the only thing that you could hold against them because they got their top non-conference wins. They still are undefeated. They look like they're poised to go on to win a conference championship. More power to them. But they do look like a team that is facing the pressure already. Because if they don't make the playoff, now, if they go undefeated and miss it, that's not on them. I still might hold it against them about the style points because I think that's going to be the tipping point that keeps them out. I just don't anticipate them missing it undefeated, but that's a conversation for later. There's a lot of pressure on Cincinnati to make that playoff. Also, Kev, you want to know why they're facing the most pressure? You don't want to head into the Big 12 without Coach Luke Fickell. If you don't have Luke Fickell heading into the Big 12, Now you feel it's kind of like when remember when Butler left the Horizon League and they lost Brad Stevens? It's like, man, Brad Stevens is the one that brought them up.
Mm-hmm.
Butler is always a respected program, but to go from the Horizon League to what was it, the Big East? Then they had that Catholic League. I don't even remember what the heck happened with that. It was all over the place a little bit, but the point is, or the A10 or whatever, I forgot how Butler even transitioned out of the Horizon, to be honest with you. But the point is, it didn't feel as special, and you felt like they fell behind the 8 ball a bit because the second Brad Stevens left, it's like, well, Brad Stevens got us out of this bad conference, but now who's going to take us into that next part of the journey? And that's where the Bearcats are at right now. Luke Fickell's about to lead them out. He technically has. They've already signed. It's just a matter of what year that is going to be. But if Luke Fickell doesn't get to the playoff this year and says, you know what, I'm not going to sit here for 2 more years not making the playoff. I need to get somewhere where I can compete right away. And he bounces, and then Cincinnati takes a couple steps back. Now you don't have that momentum going into the Big 12. I think everything sits on their playoff appearance this year. That's a long soliloquy on my end to say why I think that they're the number 1 team facing the most pressure, because it's more than just making the playoff. It's all about setting up that momentum to go into the Big 12. You want to go into the Big 12 with momentum. They have an opportunity to be the face of that conference. It's not very often where you get a team coming into your conference to be the face of that conference, and I think Cincinnati has everything in position to be that. If you have Luke Fickell, if you have a playoff appearance under your belt, if you have the recruiting momentum, if you have all of those things checked off, all of that does not happen unless you make the playoff this year. So I have to put Cincinnati in at my number 1. Kev, before I go to 2, do you have anything to rebuttal there?
Only reason I would say they're not in my top 4, they were probably like at 5, but as much what you said about they really can't control their own destiny. Like Ohio State controls their own destiny. Any Power 5 team really controls their own destiny. Yeah, like you talked about, if they were like smashing teams, blowing them out 55-10 and everything like that, then maybe we could be like, well, you had it in your hands and everything like that. But I don't necessarily believe like they have everything in their control. It's really not in their control. They can obviously win by bigger margins, and that would have a better argument. But there's so many metrics out there that, the college football playoff is miraculously using against them outside of, the wins and losses and talking about game control and yada, 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 all this type of stuff, as opposed to the wins. So they don't really control their own destiny. Bama controls their destiny. Ohio State controls their destiny. There's still a lot of leeway and wiggle room for them to even get in there. Like we've been talking about, like even if they do run the table and they don't make it, then what? Like, how can that be a negative upon them? Like, look, man, we ran the table. We did all we could do. We scheduled 2 Power 5 teams and beat them both on the road. We did our very best, and we were still left out the college football playoff. As what I'm talking about with Georgia, with all these high top recruiting classes, all these guys going to the NFL, drafted in the first round. Oklahoma, same thing. Tons of guys going to the first round, and your head coach is hot all the time. NFL teams want him. College teams want him. Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, he's under a ton of pressure constantly because he was supposed to bring them back to prominence and everything like that. And then the same thing with Oregon, kind of a la what you said about UC is carrying the conference, but the difference between Oregon and UC is they're carrying for the conference that can actually control their own destiny. Like they can't control your own destiny from a non-Power 5 school. So that was the things that I would just rebuttal.
All right, and I'll continue on with mine again. I have Cincinnati as my number 1 team facing the most pressure to make the playoff, just because if you look at what happens if they don't make the playoff, that's kind of just popping the balloon of the Bearcats' optimism moving forward of being a team that's in position to make it. Their team won't be as good next year as this year. They'll be good because they have solid coaching, good recruits coming in, and they're set. But they won't be as good next year as this year. But you would like to go into next year knowing that, hey, if you do all the right things, if you schedule hard in the non-conference, and you take care of business in the non-conference, and you win, go undefeated in your conference, when you're going to have a shot. But if you do all of that and don't make it, that's going to be tough. And even if they don't make it because they lose. Now, I know what you're saying about, okay, they're the only ones that don't control their own destiny. Like Ohio State can win these next 2 in ugly fashion and win a Big Ten title game in ugly fashion, 12-9. They're in. They're making the playoff. Cincinnati, it's not so simple, but I also think that the reason that they're not as comfortable moving forward is because of them. They have only themselves to blame. You can't play as poorly as they did for 3 straight weeks, and then at the very end, flip the switch, play well, and then look at the committee and say, oh, you're just keeping this out. You can't do that when you open the door for them to point that out, because it's not like the point system is anything new to people. The style points thing has been around since 2014. That's never not been a part of the college football playoff. We've complained about it since 2014, but it's never not been there. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. The Bearcats are my number one team facing the most pressure to make the playoffs. Kev, I agree with you about Oregon. I think Oregon is facing a lot of pressure to make it, and I think they've already failed technically. You beat Ohio State. That's why you're still even in the top four. Oregon's in the top four because they beat Ohio State, and that is it. Because that horrible loss that they have, that loss, they should not even be in the conversation with that loss. But they're fortunate to be in there because they have the best win of anyone in the country. But that's a lot of pressure. You know how tough it is to beat Ohio State at Ohio State? It's not like you beat Ohio State at Oregon. Everyone thought that there was a chance that you could possibly split this series, especially if you have Ohio State at Oregon and you're able to get a win on your home field. But you won at Ohio State. If you get a win at Ohio State near the Pac-12 and one of your teams does that, and then you don't make the playoff even with winning at Ohio State, that's going to be tough to swallow. You're always going to look back at this season and say, man, what could have been? Because if you don't make it and you end up picking up another loss, clearly you're allowed to lose another one or lose a game. But you're wasted a loss against a bad team. Imagine if you were undefeated and you lost a close one in the Pac-12 championship. Wouldn't you rather have your stubbing of your toe then? Because the committee has proven in years past that, hey, we'll forgive you for a loss in your championship game as long as your resume throughout the regular season is strong. So Oregon, I think, is facing a lot of pressure because now their margin for error is so slim. Actually, they don't even have a margin for error. They have to be perfect. They have to win a Pac-12 championship.
Yep. Yeah.
So next up on my list, I have Georgia, Kev, as number 3. I have Cincinnati 1, Oregon 2, Georgia number 3, mainly because they're number 1 in a conference with Alabama. And I know you have Alabama in the SEC title game unless something crazy happens these next 2 weeks, but Georgia, Alabama, SEC championship game, there's not many opportunities where Georgia is the face of this conference right now. And what does that tell recruits if this is the best roster Georgia's had since 1980? This is the most talented roster they've had on both sides of the ball since 1980. What does that tell future recruits? What does that tell the boosters in that entire program if you have the best roster you've had since 1980 and you still can't beat Alabama? You still can't make the playoff. You still can't win a national championship. I'm going to go one further, Kev. They're not just facing pressure to make the playoff. They're facing pressure to win a national championship. Because outside of LSU with Joe Burrow and the elite NFL roster that they had years ago, if you don't have that, and it's rare what LSU had, you don't have that. You're more likely to have a Georgia roster than you are an LSU roster moving forward. So if you can't capitalize on this roster to beat Alabama and to win a national championship, you're basically looking at recruits saying, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. We got nothing else. This was our best shot, and we couldn't capitalize on it. And this isn't even one of the more dominant Alabama teams. I think there's a ton of pressure on Georgia to make the playoff and to win a national championship.
Without a doubt. And we talked about this before the season started. If this championship or bust for them, it is championship or bust for Georgia. And there's no SEC bias and trying to put pressure on them from Dayton, Ohio, all the way down to Athens, Georgia. It's as simply as this, man. They have so many top recruiting classes, put so many stars in the NFL, and they haven't gotten it done since 1980. And that's not just like the last couple years. I mean, there's been countless of stars coming out of that program. I mean, Matthew Stafford with the number 1 overall pick. You can talk about AJ Green, all the success he had with the Cincinnati Bengals. Guys that are currently in the NFL. Roquan Smith, the linebacker that plays for the Chicago Bears. Just tons and tons of talented guys from that program in the NFL year after year after year after year, and they have not been able to get it done. And now is the time with that defense. That defense is legit. And I know everybody's going to say, well, who's they played? They haven't played a top tier quarterback. Well, you know what? Neither has your team. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because 9 times out of 10, there's only about 3 top tier quarterbacks. And one of them is at Ohio State. One of them is at Alabama. So eventually they'll play them and then we'll see. Right. So that is the whole situation with them, man. It's been since 1980, man, since they got a national championship, and the pressure's starting to mount because they had a chance against Alabama before, and they were a blown coverage away from winning the national championship then. And then you got to think about the Justin Fields situation. You know, they decided to go with Fromm, and then Justin Fields come to Ohio State, balls out of control, goes to the college football playoff, then goes to the national championship, first round pick, while Fromm is on the practice squad with the Bills. You know what I'm saying? So the pressure is all on Georgia to win a national championship. Not only pressure to win a national championship in the instance that we're talking about right now, but pressure overall, because if they don't, then what? Like you said, what is he going to tell the boosters? What are you going to tell recruiters if they don't win a national championship this year? So forget just making the college football playoff. Like it's pretty much for sure they're going to make the college football playoff, but they got to win it. They got to win it.
Win it at the very least. Get to the dang national championship game and lose a close one, but they have to win it. This is the best roster.
Will that do? Will a close loss do? I don't think a close loss will do. It is win or go home. It is championship or bust for them, man. It is championship or bust, dude. You can't have this type of talent on your team. This many guys that are going to be first-round picks. And it's first-round picks on the offense, too. Not like skill position-wise, but, the tight end is going to be a top-level pick, offensive lineman. So you got all these guys that are going to have their names called and be playing on Sundays, and you don't have anything, have a trophy to show for it. That's bad for business. That is horrible for business.
And number 4 on my list, Michigan. Just because right now Jim Harbaugh, and again, very similar to yours, Jim Harbaugh right now has so much to prove. And look, he's actually done a very good job this year.
Absolutely.
For Michigan to be this far into the season, ranked as high as they are, they do have that one loss, and their one loss is a close one against Michigan State. And I think that sets up one of the biggest Ohio State-Michigan matchups in quite some time coming up here a week from tomorrow, barring the results of tomorrow's games, of course. But I think that, if Michigan heads into that Ohio State matchup with only one loss, and it's a close one to Michigan State, and they somehow, the opportunities there. Jim Harbaugh is almost coaching for his job. I really don't know what his job security in a pie chart is. I don't, even on a scale of 1 to 10, Kev, I don't know what his job security is on a scale of 1 to 10, but you would have to think that, yes, beating Ohio State this year, it's secure at 10. Beating Ohio State and getting to the playoff and getting a win, or just getting there in general. To get to the playoff, you have to beat Ohio State, obviously. But at the end of the day, that the playoff for Michigan is a week from tomorrow. They got to take care of business tomorrow, because it would be typical Michigan to lose tomorrow. They've been watering down that matchup with Ohio State. They've been watering down that matchup with Ohio State for years now. I really hope they only have one loss. Only one loss heading into that matchup a week from tomorrow, because that will set up one of the biggest matchups in Ohio State, Michigan in quite some time. And at that point, that's why I think Michigan is facing the most pressure to make the playoff, because they have to. For Coach Harbaugh has to make it. The program needs to make it. And if I'm Harbaugh and I beat Ohio State and make the playoff, I go ask for my money back.
And then some. I think they'll be willing to give it to them as well if they're able to pull that off.
If Mel Tucker just got that $9.5 million, technically not due to. They've turned down it's turning around the perception of the program. But my goodness, oh my goodness. Matt Sturgeon on YouTube says, Justin, you got your best Baker Mayfield look going on. I do. It's that faded mustache and the stubble, right? Aye. I'm a little banged up right now. But I am. Look, this is Baker. I'm sick and I'm at home still doing my. Most of y'all peasants would have just called off. Y'all would have just been at home, nursing, eating some soup, watching TV all day. Not Kenner. Kenner's sick, and this is my flu week. Michael Jordan had a flu game. Kenner had a flu week. How about that? How about them apples? All right, Kev, we'll pick up with this on hour number 2. Do we still have Shaw on hold?
Yes.
Shaw, look, I made Shaw sit through Mikey call yesterday. I made him sit through the majority of this part of the show. I punished him for being wrong because, I have high standards. You don't get anything wrong on the hours of 3 to 6 on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we'll be back in a moment. Do you agree or disagree with our top 4 teams facing the most pressure to make the college football playoff? We'll pick up with this at the top of the hour. Plus, you heard Matt bring up Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield. I love his toughness, but is Kevin Stefanski a head coach? Does he have any power? Because if there's ever a game to rest Baker Mayfield, I'm assuming that a Lions team that hasn't won a game all year, this would probably be the game to make him rest, especially after the Lions. You got 2 games with the Ravens back-to-back. I don't know. We'll talk about that in hour number 2 as well. Plus, the Bengals back in action against the Raiders. A ton to get into. Hour 2 next.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches, weakness, or discomfort in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 selling nerve care company. Nervive contains alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, and B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live your life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com.
It's Black Friday now at JCPenney. Starting Friday, shop thousands of Black Friday deals across the store while they last. Our Yes Please diamonds are only $19.99 each. Bundle up the family in jackets under $25. Plus, update with cookware and cutlery, now $9.99 each after $10 mail-in rebate. These deals are yours for the gifting. Happy Black Friday, JCPenney. Offers valid on select items 11/19 through 11/21. Conditions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce?
Spill the sauce? Quick, the Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up spills and messes quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce? Okay.
Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for video, phone, chat, and conference rooms. Zoom enables real-time collaboration no matter where your teams are. Global enterprises trust the easy-to-use, reliable, and secure Zoom platform to power high-performance teams. Empower your workforce with Zoom. Save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Hi, this is Paul Keels, voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Keep your home comfort system running smoothly and efficiently with regular checkups from Butler Heating and Air Conditioning. Butler has been proudly serving the Miami Valley since 1949. Don't wait until your equipment breaks. Call Butler today at 937-253-8871. That's 937-253-8871. Go Butler and go Bucks.
It's Menards' last 11% rebate sale of 2021. Organize your home with a new Dakota closet system. They come in a wide variety of sizes and styles to match your specific needs. Dakota closet systems cut down on clutter, so get organized and save with 11% off all Dakota storage solutions. Menards' last 11% rebate sale of 2021 is good through Wednesday, November 24th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring Class A CDL drivers. $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight. Apply today at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
My son is not some statistic.
My daughter's not a headline. My girl, she's not someone's agenda.
What she
is
irreplaceable. COVID hospitalizations of young people have tripled
since the start of summer. So I talked to my daughter's doctor about COVID vaccines.
She said they're highly effective in preventing hospitalizations and deaths, even from the Delta variant.
We can do this. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Bags under your eyes? That's junk sleep. And Mattress Firm can help. Shop the Black Friday sale and save up to $500 on top-rated mattress brands like Sleepy's.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at Lance DaytonProgroupRoofing.com.
Looking for a career and not just a job? Then Dayton Progress is looking for you. Dayton Progress is the leading international manufacturer of tools and tooling components for the metal stamping industries and has immediate openings for their entry-level machinists. No prior experience is required, and Dayton Progress will train you, starting with the basics. They offer competitive wages starting at $15 per hour and up to $18 per hour with prior experience. New hires are eligible for merit increases after 90 days of employment. They also offer private health care, including vision and dental, free life insurance, a contributory 401k, promotions from within, company service recognition, and 100% tuition reimbursement to local state colleges. Dayton Progress is a great place to work and has been a Dayton landmark for over 70 years. Apply today by emailing your resume to jobs@DaytonProgress.com. That's jobs@DaytonProgress.com. Dayton Progress is an equal opportunity employer.
This is Education Matters with Ohio Education Association President Scott Damaro.
Our public schools are under attack in the State House, where alarming bills are threatening to allow big government into our classrooms to censor educators working hard to provide every child an accurate and quality education. Let's stand up to the anti-freedom politicians who want to whitewash parts of our history so they can control a political narrative.
Education Matters, brought to you by the Ohio Education Association.
Buckman's D&D Harley-Davidson and Xenia has gifts for everyone on your list this year. November 24th, 26th, and 27th. Take 20% off licensed products, 10% off aftermarket non-Harley-Davidson parts, and have those incredible gifts wrapped and ready to go with free gift wrapping. Get those names checked off your list and give them what they really want this year, the gift of Harley-Davidson. Buckman's D&D Harley-Davidson, 1213 Xenia Avenue in Xenia. Online at buckmansdnd.com.
Bags under your eyes? That's junk sleep. And Mattress Firm can help. Shop the Black Friday sale and save up to $500 on top-rated mattress brands like Sleepy's.
We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Into the end zone goes Chris Olave. KJ Hill, 6-yard touchdown catch. Right sideline and down he goes to the end zone.
WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local.
What are you gonna miss? He struck him out.
We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
All right. Hour 2. The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, brought to you by Orion Sports Medicine, OGW Energy Resources, and, of course, Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. All right. Happy Friday. Look, this is my favorite and least favorite time of year because the college football season, the urgency of the season really starts to kind of kick into high gear right about now. But it's also a reminder that, oh, crap, season's almost over.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, Kev, we talk so much like off season, and then the season starts, and then it's like, okay, well, the season really matters when the first playoff poll comes out. The first playoff poll comes out, and then you blink and you open your eyes, and it's Selection Sunday, and then it's like, holy crap. It drives me crazy. The NFL, they added an extra week, and I'm like depressed because I'm like, there's only 7 more weeks left in the playoffs. And both of our teams here in the state of Ohio may not even be in the playoffs. I mean, I don't even know what to think. So, but nonetheless, this is a great time of year right now. All the sports overlap, and baseball, of course. I'm actually glad that the Reds aren't playing at the current moment because, you know, they're not a playoff team. So there's that. But you have the Browns, you have the Bengals, you have the Buckeyes, you have Dayton Flyers, you have Wright State, you have your college basketball, you know, the overlap. I love it. But real quick, an update on the Cleveland Browns, Kev. They do get Nick Chubb back this Sunday against the Lions.
Make an adjustment to my fantasy team. No Dearness Johnson. Gotta put him on the bench.
And we'll talk about the impact of Nick Chubb coming up here in a bit. But it was announced, too. Kevin Stefanski announced that Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback for the Browns on Sunday. Now, no, the only reason that was brought up was not because there was some kind of quarterback controversy of, oh, man, Baker was so bad last week that they don't want him to be their starter anymore. It really had everything to do with health between the labrum, between the broken bone in his shoulder, between the leg issues he's having now. At some point, you got to just protect him from himself. Look, it's no secret. Yes, a lot of things have to go right for Baker to be effective, but my goodness, when you have a quarterback that starts at that, when healthy, when everything has to go right for a quarterback that's healthy, now you're moving those expectation bars further back and back and back and back. And that's the problem I have right now with Baker Mayfield. And that's all fine and dandy that Baker Mayfield feels like he's good and ready to go. But the bottom line is someone has to be an adult in that locker room and say, Baker, we appreciate your toughness, but the bigger picture is at stake here. And regardless of the opinion about Baker being good or not good, the bottom line is the Browns' best chance of winning and making the playoffs is with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I think Kevin Stefanski is hurting this team by allowing Baker to dictate whether or not he gets to play. We'll talk about that coming up around the corner. Back to the comment section we go, Kev, on Facebook. Again, we were talking about the top 4 teams facing the most pressure to make the college football playoff. That's kind of where we're at right now. And it's interesting. So someone shot a note and said that we're being homers because we don't have Ohio State in there. I don't think Ohio State, if they miss the playoff, it doesn't impact them as far as perception. Does anyone think less of Ohio State if they miss the... Now, if they string it together a couple years not in the playoff, now you have a problem. But if they miss the playoff this year, it doesn't change the perception of who the Buckeyes are. It doesn't change recruiting. It doesn't change their stance in their conference. It doesn't change the thought, your perception of the coach and the coaching staff. Ohio State did exactly what you're supposed to as a top program. You have a very tough conference. Look at all the top teams in the Big Ten this year. They still put Oregon on the schedule. They still have games at Notre Dame and Texas and all these big matchups coming up in years to come. If Ohio State wanted to be that obnoxious team that sits back and says, you know what, we're Ohio State. We don't need to play anybody. We'll just beat up on the MAC teams in the non-conference. We'll do what Alabama does. If we do play a team of any substance, we'll be a bunch of wusses and only play them on a neutral field. But no, Ohio State does the home and homes because Ryan Day and Urban Meyer and Gene Smith and going back through that and even all the way back to Jim Tressel, they have a pair of cojones that they're not afraid to go play these teams on their home field. Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide, Alabama. Oh, what the hell's a Tide anyways? Roll Tide, baby. Oh, yeah. SEC, it just means more. We're too afraid to go play you on your home field, so we're going to play in a neutral set. Get out of here with that mess. It's weak. It's weak. Good for Ohio. So if Ohio State misses the playoff this year because they end up stubbing their toe in the Big Ten title game or against, God forbid, that team up north, or even again tomorrow, don't want to disrespect Mel Tucker. You know what? Ohio State misses the playoff because they had the cojones to schedule a home and home with the top team in Oregon. They lost a close one to Oregon. And if that's what knocks them out of the playoff, you know what? I don't think anything less of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Every team I mentioned before has a ton of pressure to make the playoff because it dictates the perception of that program moving forward. Kev, what are your thoughts on Ohio State and why we did not include them on that list?
I'm with you 100%. Alabama wasn't on my list. Clemson wasn't on my list. No, I'm not going to do the accent.
All right.
They weren't on my list because a blip is just a blip. Them not making it, okay, well, you're not going to make it every single year. Now, like you just said, like if this becomes a continuous problem, then we have a problem. You know, a lot of these teams that, at least on my list, there's continual problems. There's a continual problem with Georgia having top 5 ranked classes in recruiting and tons of NFL guys and not winning national championships. You could talk about the same thing with Oregon being the bell cow of the Pac-12 and not getting it done. Jim Harbaugh in Michigan trying to get them back on top and everything like that. There's a thread line between all those teams. Like they haven't punched the ticket. They haven't gotten it done. So that's why they're under pressure. Yeah, of course, Ohio State's under pressure. More pressure from just the fan base. But I'm talking about like as a whole. Like, all right, man, if they miss it once, I ain't going to trip. Like, all right, if it's back-to-back years, then I would start, all right, hey, what's going on up there, Coach Day? Are you acting like an interim coach or something?
Hey, shots fired. Man, he does get to you. My goodness. He is the only one that brings that side out in you, man.
Ridiculous.
I'm proud of you.
Ridiculous.
Petty Kev is my favorite Kev in the history of the world. Just so you know.
Appreciate it.
Now I'm stalling because I'm also trying to make sure my laptop doesn't die, so everyone can still see my pretty face live here on Facebook and YouTube. So, anyways, 518-1410. Let's go to Tennessee Jeff. Tennessee Jeff, happy Friday. I'm sure you are jacked about the Buckeyes tomorrow.
Hey guys, yeah, I am. First of all, Mel Tucker, that was a curveball. I thought he would leave, and it kind of shocked me. So Ryan Day's making 6.61 this year. I mean, I'm not feeling sorry for him. That's a lot of cash, but Mel Tucker's, what's he, 9.5? So that's Gene Smith. We'll have a discussion at the tunnel tomorrow morning because he needs a pay raise.
Now, Tennessee Jeff, real quick, have you always found it odd? Like even going back to Urban was never paid up there with Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney. Like it's almost like being the head coach at Ohio State works against you. It's like, yeah, like you need to win multiple national championships to be paid up there with those guys, because like you're expected to win the Big Ten, you're expected to make the playoff, and if you're doing that, it's not a great thing you're doing. You're just doing the status quo, right? I'm not saying that's fair or not, but I'm with you. I did find that kind of odd. I'm curious to see where Ryan Day goes from here, especially with after this season.
Yeah, we need to lock him up because they don't really talk a lot, and I try to squeeze as much out of him as I can. I remember one time talking with the Rose Bowl, and I had my phone in my hand at the time, and he goes, "Man, take me off video." I'm like, "Dude, you're not. They're just paranoid." I'm like, "Ryan, you're not on video." Because I told him, "You're going to be the next." No, it was at the Big Ten title before they announced it. That Ryan was. It was. I don't know what game. One of those big games, and they just don't talk a lot about it. But Ryan's going to be sought after. Obviously, he's 32-3. I don't need to go on. I can give you every stat he's got as far as I just think this coach is phenomenal. He's going to be wanted by the NFL. Is he an NFL guy, or does he love Columbus with his young children so much, and his wife Nina, that they just want to stay in Franklin County and make it work? I think we could have this guy for years because he's 42, so he's really young. So tomorrow's game, I got goosebumps as I'm thinking about it. I always hate these last games before because there's nobody. I am a different breed, brother, when it comes to Michigan week starting tomorrow at 4:00 in the afternoon. Like I'm off the chain. Like I've got everything planned out. I want to talk so much about what I'm doing next week and how I'm going to be in Detroit and Thanksgiving and Ann Arbor. I'm going to be there Wednesday through Sunday, so I'm so jacked about that. We'll crush this team tomorrow. It won't be close. We're going to stack the box with what you got to pass it to beat us because we're going to obviously kill Walker. Their offense is one-dimensional. I don't think they got very good. They don't have very good receivers. Their defense is stout, but their run defense is stout. They've got the worst pass defense in the Big Ten. So this will not be close. We will crush them, and then tomorrow at 4:00 we can start gearing up. But I'm going to tell you right now, I've been to a lot of these, man, and I'm just going to move ahead toward everybody on my social media. Oh, quit looking ahead. I'm like, well, that fan is short for what, Kev? Fanatic, right? You taught me that years ago. I think one of you said it. So I'm like, you know what? I can't look. I'm not a player. I'm not a coach. By the way, before I forget, Mark Pantoni, feel better. He will not be there tomorrow. That's all I can say about that. He'll be back hopefully for the Michigan game. That sucks for him. They've got, they'll beat Maryland tomorrow. They'll beat them by 40. They've got us right where they want us as far as the Michigan team, right? It's in Ann Arbor. Back at the media days in July when I talked to you guys played the bit where Harbaugh says, they're going to win it all or going to die trying. They are good, man. And talent-wise, if both teams play up their capability, we'll beat them by 3 touchdowns, but it's just something in me. And I told you this, Justin, when I stood in line for the national title game. You were like, "Oh no, we're gonna beat Alabama," but we didn't. And I don't know everything, but I'm something about this game has just been eating at me all year. I am a wreck about that game. Tomorrow is a piece of cake. Really, I am, because dude, you have to beat us. They are obsessed with Ohio State this year, and because I've got a few friends up there that talk about it. And I'm telling you, like you said about a half hour ago, is his job on the line? Because dude, they have to beat us. They have to. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you come in 10-1. We're coming into your backyard. We haven't played in 24 months. Our defense is not stout like it usually is, and you got Corum and you got Haskins running backs, and you got a couple weapons. You got a good defense. They can beat us this year. Will they? I don't think they will. But another thing concerns me: Stroud going into that stadium. I'm looking every day. It changes, like 34 and partly cloudy. Stroud makes me nervous. I love him. He's a great player, but freshman going in there with that crap, dude, their fans are going to be off of the chain.
Are you going to the game next week, right?
Oh, dude, you know what? Yeah. So you know how like when both teams come out of the one tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Both teams at Michigan State. I got 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So both teams come out of the main tunnel at section 44, and Michigan fans do their damnedest to not let any Ohio State fans along that tunnel. Well, I get there at 7:30. I'm there before anybody. Like I'm standing there, freezing my tail off, and I stand there. So, and then once what happens is everybody runs to that tunnel, and if you get there, you get there. And dude, I've gotten some scraps, not stupid scraps because I don't want to get kicked out. But I mean, the security guy. And the great thing about it is it's section 44, and then a half hour before kickoff, they say, "All right, everybody not in this section, go to your seats." Well, guess what? I'm in section 44, row 6, right behind our bench on the 50. I am freaking jacked. But hey, remember 2016 double overtime?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember, like you said, Justin, I don't remember another game, Michigan, Ohio State, where I've been this amped for that means this much because it's all on the line, especially for those guys. What are you guys' thoughts on the game next week? Briefly.
Go ahead, Kenner.
Next week. Kev, I'll let you start.
I'm ready. I'm much like everybody else out there. I'm trying not to look ahead. I'm trying to respect our this week. I mean, if you look at it, Michigan State obviously has had more success against Ohio State than Michigan has. So, and that's what I have to keep reminding myself, all the years that Michigan State has beat us at our house, like they haven't beat us.
I remember, yeah.
They haven't beat us at Spartan Stadium. They've beat us at Ohio Stadium at the Shoe. So, I have to keep reminding myself that when I'm like, oh man, next week is Michigan week. Oh, next week is Thanksgiving. Oh, can't wait. Everything's going to be on the line. They got Maryland. Long as they take care of business, it's going to be epic. Forgetting that, we got a big game this week. So more importantly, I want us to handle business this week, and then I can really start getting excited for next week. I can't wait.
Well, I'll call you on the daily next week.
So next week, I'm just happy, Jeff, because this is the first time I've looked forward to this matchup in a while. Now, I know that's not a popular take, but I blame Michigan for that. I don't blame Ohio State for that. I mean, I could blame Ohio State. I could say, hey, you got so good that you ruined the matchup, but I like to blame that other team because that other team should be the Georgia of the Big Ten. Like Alabama is so damn dominant, but that hasn't prevented Georgia from being dominant. And what I mean by that is, sure, half the time Georgia losing to Alabama is their shortcomings, but Michigan, it's not even Ohio State ruining their season half the time. Their season is ruined before even coming into the Ohio State matchup.
Yeah, right.
Not the case this year. And finally, I feel like something's on the line. Like, it's always something on the line. You don't want to lose. Don't get me wrong. But, like, there's something on the line. Like, the loser of that game loses something big. Michigan usually doesn't have a whole lot other than pride heading into this matchup the last few years. It's different this year. That way, as of now, again, tomorrow, one of the two teams can stub their toe. I don't anticipate it being either one of them, but Michigan has always ruined this matchup in recent years, and I hope it's not them. So I hope that these two teams head into next week full force. And we're talking about one of the biggest games of the Paul Feinbaum the other day said Ohio State, Michigan, if both are, win out heading into that matchup, that'll be the biggest game of the 2021 season outside of the playoffs. So that's the way it feels to me right now for the first time in a while.
Last thing, Coach Ed Warner was our O-line coach when we won the national championship. Then he went to Michigan, God help him. Now he's down in Florida, living it up in golf, and he's coaching UCF. We talked yesterday. And he has friends up there. He has friends that are on the staff. His son coached there as well. Dude, they want us like I can't even tell you how bad. Like they want us this year like we want them every year. It's going to be interesting, and they can beat us this year. I don't think they will, but it's going to be a freaking bloodbath. Have a great weekend, guys. Go Bucks.
OH.
Take care, man. All right, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. Kev, let's go to Shaw, but leave the Buckeye music. I want the Michigan fan to talk over the Buckeye music. Shaw, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Go Bucks.
Man, if that's you sounding good, I'd hate to hear you sounding bad.
Oh, I'm saving it. I'm saving it all for next week, bro.
Saving what for next week? It's because you don't trust your team. You got to save it for next week because you don't
No,
trust
it
your
has nothing to do with that. I'm respecting my opponent we got this week, and then you get it
this
all
show's
next
not about
week,
respect. Like I called a fat ass yesterday, and I called an old guy a moron. What this show ain't about respect?
Real quick, but Sean, what did you think of that
please.
yesterday? What did you think about that back and forth yesterday?
I cannot believe you guys didn't hang up on him sooner than what you did. I'm shocked that Justin didn't lose his crap sooner than what he did. I give you respect because I thought, as disrespectful as he was to Kenner, I thought he was even more disrespectful to you because you were asking him a point-blank question and he made every attempt to ignore it. Quite frankly, I mean, I'll speak for both of you, and I'm not trying to put words in your guys' mouth, but quite frankly, the show doesn't deserve him to call back in ever again. The IQ of the show goes down every time he calls. But anyhow, moving on to something way more important. The main reason I called before all the Ohio State-Michigan stuff, I wanted to talk to you last week about this. Why doesn't the score on the field ever matter anymore in college football?
What you mean?
My point, why is Michigan ranked higher than Michigan State?
Oh, well, we talked about that yesterday with the analytics and control of the game stuff. Like, I'm just not a fan of that, man. I'm not a fan of that. And this is taking like the, Ohio State stuff off. Like, I think they should be very equally matched, but I just think that Michigan State should be ranked one spot ahead of them. Just same way I think that Oregon should be ranked one spot ahead of Ohio State. And that's what I talk about, the inconsistencies. They have Oregon ranked ahead of Ohio State because Oregon beat Ohio State, but Michigan is ahead of Michigan State. But how is it one way for that team and not that way for this team? So those are the things that people talk about with, well, at least that I talk about with inconsistencies. But at the end of the day, well, no, it's not at the end of the day because you actually need Ohio State to win this week. You need us to take care of them, to knock them out, so y'all can have an opportunity to beat us to go to the Big Ten championship. So you're rooting for the Buckeyes this weekend too. Let her play.
I root for anybody against Sparty. I'll just be honest. Yeah.
I don't have a problem at all with Michigan being ranked of Michigan State. Like, this is why I don't like the whole head-to-head conversation, is because I think that the head-to-head conversation matters if it comes down to like a tiebreaker or if it comes down to we're splitting hairs. But like, of course, Michigan State beating Michigan, they should be ahead of Michigan if that's where we're starting. But like the second Michigan State lost to Purdue in the way that they did, giving up 4 to getting blown out, I thought that put them in position to be moved back. Like, yes, Michigan's getting the respect of losing a close game to a good Michigan State team, but Michigan State still being held accountable for losing the way that they did to Purdue. Ohio State losing to Oregon and being kept behind Oregon, that's because it goes to the other metric of the strength of schedule. Like, it's never so cut and dry. When people bring up one thing, it's because they won the head-to-head. So because Michigan lost to Michigan State, Michigan should never be allowed to be ranked higher than them no matter what happens. That's why I have no problem with it, is because it's just one piece to the puzzle. People don't like that there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. I don't like jigsaw puzzles, but that's what the college football playoff is, unfortunately. So yes, the head-to-head does matter, and I think it did matter, but I think the second Michigan State lost to Purdue the way that they did, it kind of nullified that win that they had over Michigan.
11 points is a blowout now?
That was going to be my exact point.
That was a blowout. They played horrible that game.
But yeah, this is my whole problem with college football. Period. I love the sport.
Yeah,
you guys know that. No, that was me 6 months ago. Anyways, that was my whole problem.
Mikey added the fat part to it. You always just call me an ass.
And I also don't disrespect you both during the entire phone call. But anyways, college football is the only sport in the United States where the on-field does not matter. And it drives me insane. It just drives me insane it's the same thing with Cincinnati. As much as I don't think that they're playing the same opponents as Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, yada, 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 but all that matters is they're not beating the team by a certain amount of points. It doesn't matter that they're beating them. All it matters is they're not beating them by enough. College football has changed everybody's perception where winning the game doesn't matter anymore. You got to win the game.
But then how else do you know who's dominant or not? So if every team just wins 13-10, how do you know who's dominant?
How do you know who's dominant in baseball? How do you know who's dominant in basketball? How do you know who's dominant in any other sport played in America? You play it on the field. The first tiebreaker is who won on the field.
Everyone has an even playing field. You're playing in baseball, you're playing against pros across the board. College, that's not the case.
College basketball, there's more teams than in college football, and everybody doesn't play the same teams there.
You have 68 teams. It's easier to kind of push everyone around a bit. In college football, you have to be more detailed because you only got 4 teams.
But I don't think I agree with the aspect of there's less teams and there's less time. I agree with that aspect, but you can't lose the fact of who's winning on the field. That is literally the most important fact. It doesn't matter. If it matters, Michigan would be ranked below Michigan State.
Why should Michigan? Wait, what? Hold on. Repeat that. Sorry.
If it mattered, Michigan would be ranked below Michigan State.
I have ADD and I can't concentrate today.
If it mattered, Michigan would be ranked below Michigan State right now. And the reason it matters is it's not necessarily this year because of a 14 playoff, because I don't think either one of them are making the playoff. But it matters coming up next year and the year before, whenever we do the expansion. Because why I think the expansion should happen is because it's going to get more teams a shot. Plus, certain
but
seasons
why
won't
should
be
they be
forgotten.
ranked lower?
Why? Because they lost on the field.
So that means they are never allowed to be ranked higher, no matter what. So they're that's a stopping block. Like they are never allowed to pass.
When Michigan State loses this week, yes, Michigan could have jumped them.
Michigan State,
but it doesn't happen before when they have the same record. It wasn't embarrassing. It was an 11-point game.
You gave up 40 to Purdue.
They lost by 11. They should have gave up 40 to Michigan.
It was not as tight as the 11. I'm not trying to get in an argument 2 days in a row, but that game was not close at all. I know the score indicates that, but that game was not close at all. Michigan State that was a blowout. I know the score doesn't indicate that. They did score late. That was not a close game. And that's what I mean by that is they were rewarded for their win against Michigan. They were in the playoff. And then when you lose, you get penalized for that loss. That happened after. Michigan has continued to beat down on opponents since then. And they didn't play bad against Michigan State. So I think Michigan's being rewarded. I hate that I have to compliment your team, but that's kind of where I'm at this point.
I'm not trying to be a jerk with this question, so don't take it that way. Did you watch the game or did you watch highlights of it?
No, I watched the Purdue Michigan State game.
Okay, all right. I was just making sure because they were within one score late in the third quarter. Michigan State was.
Okay.
They were within one score, and then Purdue went down. They scored to make it a two possession game again, and Michigan State fumbled threw an interception, not a fumble, sorry, an interception. And then they went down and scored. And that's what
you can't say that the win-loss doesn't matter. Michigan State was rewarded for the head-to-head win when they were put in the college football playoff rankings right off the bat. They got penalized for losing right after. Just because they lost after, it doesn't mean that they are the stopping block that Michigan can never surpass. I mean, so what would Michigan have to do to surpass them? That's what I don't get by that when people say the head-to-head matters.
When they lose to Ohio State, they jump them.
But why would that matter?
What?
I'm not trying to. I want to have a regular conversation with you. I don't want to have another.
No, we are. No,
so I'm asking, when you say that, what does that mean? Why does head-to-head only matter if you beat Ohio State?
If the team's record is tied, the head-to-head has to matter. So when you're looking at a team ranked 5th and 6th in the country, a week after they lost, after one of these teams lost to the team that should be ranked 5th, I don't understand how, as voters and as people of a committee, a week and a half later can sit there and go, yeah, they lost to Purdue, but when they met together on the field, Michigan State came back from a 16-point deficit late in the third quarter and beat that team at home. beat them on the field, yeah, we'll go ahead because they lost by 11 to Purdue in the fourth quarter. We'll go ahead and rank Michigan State below Michigan, even though they beat them on the field.
You know what, Shaw? I agree with you, but this is the thing about college football. That's what makes this thing go around. Controversy makes college football go around. And also, I remember when Ohio State beat Alabama in the first college football playoff, and they released the Vegas sports book that says, oh yeah, if they were to play again, Alabama would be favored by 13 points. Like, even though Ohio State just beat them, they would still favor Alabama. And the same thing went when Ohio State beat Miami in the national championship game to win the national championship game. Instead of being I believe going into the game, they were Miami was a 17-point favorite. After the game, Vegas released, oh, okay, now Miami's only a 10-point favorite. Even though they beat them on the field, they still favor that team. At some point, we just got to chalk it up. It is what it is. And because there ain't nothing we can really do about it, because the committee's going to do what the committee does. Vegas is going to do what they do. And that's what makes this sport go around. I mean, that's part of the reason why you're calling into the show, is to debate this whole thing. And, you know, this sport of college football feeds off of that. That's why I think that having a 4-team playoff is kind of like the best thing that ever happened to college football. Is no longer a what if scenario. It's always going to have that hidden secrecy of, yeah, we know we have 5 Power 5 conferences, but we're only going to let 4 teams in. So somebody's going to get the shaft. Oh yeah, we're not even worried about the non-Power 5 teams, and we'll keep the whatever Cinderella from the non-Power 5 around to keep them interested and see what happens. Like, it's a very see what happens type of situation, and it feeds off that. It feeds off the ratings. And you know what? It gets me hooked. It gets you hooked. It gets Kenner hooked. It gets everybody hooked. They know exactly what they're doing.
All of
Shaw,
that I
we got
agree
30
with.
seconds, Shaw.
All that I agree with, but my problem, the matter is every other sports gets us hooked. NBA gets us hooked, NFL gets us hooked, and it gets us hooked by the action on the field, not by 12 guys sitting behind a computer trying to predict what's going to happen in the future.
Okay, but there's too many people like you, Shaw, that complain about the format, but no one has a suggestion of what a fair way to do it is. And the reason is there's no such thing as a fair way to do a playoff in a system that's unfair to begin with.
I mean, let it play out on the field like every other sport in America, like every other division in football.
How? Again, that's generic. That's a generic answer. How? Play out on the field. What are you talking about?
Conference champions get a bye with the first 4 teams, and then 5 through 12 play each other on the field.
So a Pac-12 champion who is worse than a 1 or 2 loss Big Ten or a SEC team, that's fair?
Yes, it's fair because they played it out and they got the championship. Championships have to matter, and that's part of the sport that I think has been completely forgotten. Championships have to matter because on-field matters, not what people sitting behind a computer say.
So
and that's
a 4-loss Northwestern team from years ago would have upset Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. They deserve a playoff appearance over a 1-loss Georgia or someone like that?
If that's how it would have played out, but you and I both know that wouldn't have played out that way. Georgia would have gotten that large tick.
So but that happens a lot.
That's
all right,
my
Sean,
thing.
good stuff, man.
See you guys later.
518-1410. Shane Richardson on Facebook says, didn't Oregon lose to an unranked team and is still ranked ahead of Ohio State? Shane, yes, Oregon's being rewarded for their win over Ohio State, and the reason they're being semi-forgiven for their loss to an unranked team is because Ohio State is still being technically penalized. They have the second worst strength of schedule of any team in football that's in the playoff hunt right now. That'll change starting tomorrow and with Michigan the following week in the Big Ten championship game. But Ohio State's played nobody. And the one team they did play, they lost. Even if it was a close loss, they lost. And I think that's the committee looking at Ohio State saying, you've played nobody. Your one loss is against a top 4 team in the country. But the nobodies you've played, you've dominated. There's only one nobody that you faced that you let hang around, and that was Nebraska. But Nebraska and all their losses, they haven't lost by more than double digits at any point throughout the year. I know that's splitting hairs, but Ohio State's being held accountable for playing nobody at the same time being held accountable for losing to Oregon. Oregon's being held accountable for losing to an unranked team. Otherwise, they'd probably be number 2. And they're being, you know what I mean? So and they're being rewarded at the same time. It's not black and white. It's not like an instruction manual where flip this switch, this happens. Like if I flip this switch, I have to wait to see what the result of the other switches that were flipped by other teams. It's not so cut and dry. That's what makes this so unique and interesting to talk about. So, but yeah, Shane, that's a good point. Yeah, but I don't think the scenarios are the same. And that's why, Kev, I asked Shaw, people all the time like to say how unfair the system is, but no one has any realistic suggestion for a playoff that's fair. And let's be clear, if you're only going to give 8 teams or 12 teams a shot, and of those 12 spots, 3 of them go to multiple lost teams who happen to play on the easier side of the bracket that win a conference championship. I mean, now you're giving 3 lost teams a playoff spot over a 1-loss team that's more deserving, that played a tougher strength of schedule and that type of thing. I'm not a big believer in the conference champion deserve anything, because sometimes when you win a conference championship, you end up like the NFC East in the NFL, where you get 7-9 or 8-8 hosting a playoff game, and we all know how sick into our stomachs we get about that, and that's not the right answer either.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. It happens in the NFL all the time with the NFC least and everything like that. And that year that Seattle got to host a playoff game and Marshawn Lynch with Marshawn Lynch on them and everything like that, it happens in the NFL. And I think that's where as us as fans, especially of football, it kind of like bleeds over a lot. You watch a ton of NFL, you watch a ton of college football, and you see things play out in the NFL, and you think like, well, why don't they just do it like that in college football? The simple answer is it's 132 teams. Yep. Is it the simple? That's 132
teams.
That's a simple answer.
With 132 different budgets. It's like Major League Baseball. And it's kind of ironic that the Cincinnati Bearcats are the Cincinnati Reds of the college football playoffs. Let's just put it that way. Good stuff in the comment section. Shaw and I made it through a debate without screaming at one another. I was making it my goal today to not get into it with the caller 2 days in a row. Someone said, do you feel bad about yelling at Mike? You're like, no. Shaw calls back every day, talks every day, so he's a good sport. So it is what enough. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. Look, the playoff will always be interesting, even if it goes to 12, and I don't want it to go to 12. But when it goes to 12, I'll adapt. I'll find a way to like it. There's not a whole lot to dislike. I just don't think that the 4 team is broken, and the solutions to why 4 is not fair and 12 is, I don't think that those reasons are good enough. Unless you're saying money, your answer is not we're going to 12 because of money, it's not a good reason, because there's not a fair. If 4 is unfair, 6 isn't fair. 8 isn't fair, 12 isn't fair. There's always going to be teams that are left out that you're like, oh, they just didn't have a shot. So, Kev, I'll get your take on that on the other side. We'll be back in a moment. Give Kev a call back in the studio, 518-1410, 518-1410. We'll be back in a moment.
Our honor to defend, we will fight to the end for Ohio. Say
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear and sunny, a high near 43. Tonight will be partly cloudy, a low near 30. And tomorrow will be mostly cloudy, a high near 50. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Seal Coating, protecting the asphalt surfaces at your home, office, or commercial property. Introducing infrared patching, a new technology for your property. This service and more at culletsealcoating.com.
If you're looking to satisfy those comfort food cravings, we've got just what you're looking for. At Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, homestyle happens here with our 12-piece strips meal for only $32.99. Warm up with a big helping of homestyle. Enjoy 12 all-white meat golden brown breast strips, 3 large freshly prepared sides, and 6 fluffy biscuits. It's the family meal everyone will love. Get a homestyle meal made easy with our 12-piece strips meal for only $32.99. Only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
Are you one of the millions of homeowners who haven't refinanced yet? If so, I'm here to tell you it's not too late. Hi, I'm Wesley Hogan with Westland Financial. Although the lowest rates may be in our rearview mirror, as the economy recovers from the biggest economic shock of our lifetime, rates still remain near historic lows. In fact, with the dramatic increase in home values, this may be the perfect time to put that new home equity to work. Take advantage of our cash out refi program and pay off high rate credit cards, car loans, or other high interest rate debt. or finally make those home improvements you put on hold for so long. Best of all, we can do this with no closing costs. That's right. Whether it's a conventional, FHA, or VA loan, we'll pay for your title, settlement, lender, and recording fees. So call Westland at 888-455-3669. That's 888-455-3669. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind. 888-455-3669.
Paid for by Westland Financial. NMLS number 3304. Not all loans apply. Equal housing lender.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches, weakness, or discomfort in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 selling nerve care company. Nervive contains alpha-lipoic acid to relieve nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort, and B-complex vitamins to support healthy nerve function as you age. Live your life with less nerve discomfort with Nervive Nerve Relief. Learn more at nervivehealth.com.
It's Black Friday now at JCPenney. Starting Friday, shop thousands of Black Friday deals across the store while they last. Our Yes Please diamonds are only $19.99 each. Bundle up the family in jackets under $25. Plus, update with cookware and cutlery, now $9.99 each after $10 mail-in rebate. These deals are yours for the gifting. Happy Black Friday, JCPenney. Offers valid on select items 11/19 through 11/21. Conditions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents. And Doug.
Don't you just love the smell of old books? Shh, this is a library. Sorry, ma'am. We're looking for a book titled Liberty Mutual Customizes Your Car Insurance so you only pay for what you need. I don't think we carry that, but check nonfiction. He really does devour literature. Please leave. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
You and your phone have been through a lot this past year. It's been your lifeline to the world. And now some big wireless company is telling you got to buy a new phone from them and sign their contract? They don't control you. With TracFone Wireless, you can keep the phone, number, and network you already have. Already got a 5G phone? Keep that too. Because TracFone runs on America's best networks now with 5G nationwide. Plus, we've got unlimited talk and text smartphone plans starting at just $20. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. 5G nationwide access requires a 5G capable device. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, with 24/7 support and experienced staff at over 250 local branches. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Shop Black Friday even earlier at Lowe's with deals on drills, impact drivers, and decor. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility.
Football fans, the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show is officially back. Every Sunday morning starting at 11:30 a.m., College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and Justin Kinner will be live at Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall. The guys will recap the biggest games from college football Saturday, including your Ohio State Buckeyes. The guys will also get you set up for the day's biggest NFL matchups, featuring your Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and more. It's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show, live from Frickers on 741, Sunday mornings at 11:30 on 1410 ESPN Radio. Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
All right, we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. High school football playoffs continue this weekend. How about the Springfield Wildcats out of Region 2 and Division 1, 11-1 on the season. They take on Marysville. That'll be at Hilliard Darby Stadium coming up tonight. So best of luck to the Springfield Wildcats. Out of Division 2, how about the undefeated Piqua Indians, 12-0. They'll be taking on Cincinnati Winton Woods. They'll be at Clayton Northmont Premier Health Stadium coming up later on tonight as well. Out of Division 3, Bellbrook will be taking on Hamilton Baden, and that'll be at Trotwood High School. Port Clinton will be taking on the Van Wert Cougars. Now, you're probably saying, who gives a rip about that? I graduated from Van Wert, so shout out. Best of luck to the Van Wert Cougars. Again, So that means nothing for us here locally, but I just wanted to give them a shout out. As far as division, you can continue going down that list right there. Look, you have Versailles taking on Camden Preble Shawnee. That'll also be at Trotwood. That'll be tomorrow night. And then also tomorrow, you'll see Coldwater take on Harold Allen East out of the MAC, and then Maria Stein taking on St. Henry. Not Maria Stein, I'm sorry, Marion Local. Maria Stein's a town of like 5 people.
I have no idea. Never even heard of it.
Oh, it's up from my neck of the woods. Up yonder.
Way up yonder.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you blink. If you drive through that town, you blink. You missed it. So there you go. But, yeah, I can't believe the state semifinals, state championships. We'll be crowning some state champs coming up. We just, the volleyball state championships were last week, and fall sports wrapping up. Basketball is getting set to tip off. A lot of excitement there. Talk so much about college and pro. But, again, best of luck to all the local high school football teams still competing. Pick was a fun story. That's a pretty cool story up there, again, on Division II. They're kicking butt this season, so best of luck to them. Springfield, Mo Douglas, the job he has done with that group since taking over. Springfield used to just get beat up on all the time, and now they're the ones doing the punches. So good for them, pulling for them. Mo Douglas, shout out to him and that talented roster right there as they look to get back to the state championship game next week, or state semifinals, I should say, next week. So we'll keep you updated on the results of that. If you head to wingam.com and you click on the high school football scoreboard at the top, or if you click on the high school football game of the week tab at the top, there is a high school football scoreboard. You will be able to keep up to date on all of the high school football playoff matchups around the state of Ohio, including all of our local teams like Pickwick, Springfield. If you want to venture up even further north into the MAC with Coldwater, Marion Local, St. Henry, Versailles, and so on and so on. So make sure you go and check that out. Best of luck to all of our local teams. However far out of a radius you consider local, we're saying good luck to those teams. So there you go,
Absolutely.
Including the Van Wert Cougars. That's about an hour 45 from here. So there's that. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. More social media reaction, a lot of interesting stuff. Some people just still can't wrap their head around the possibility of an expanded college football playoff field. We're going to transition into the NFL. A lot of big games this coming up weekend. Plus, Kevin and I will give you our upset alerts, not just in the NFL, but in college football as well. A lot of semi-boring matchups. Ohio State, Michigan State looks like a great matchup until you look at the line, and then it's like, what in the world's going on there? But who should be on upset alert? Is it the Buckeyes? Kevin and I will discuss next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
Looking for a career and not just a job? Then Dayton Progress is looking for you. Dayton Progress is the leading international manufacturer of tools and tooling components for the metal stamping industries and has immediate openings for their entry-level machinists. No prior experience is required, and Dayton Progress will train you, starting with the basics. They offer competitive wages starting at $15 per hour and up to $18 per hour with prior experience. New hires are eligible for merit increases after 90 days of employment. They also offer private health care, including vision and dental, free life insurance, a contributory 401k, promotions from within, company service recognition, and 100% tuition reimbursement to local state colleges. Dayton Progress is a great place to work and has been a Dayton landmark for over 70 years. Apply today by emailing your resume to jobs@DaytonProgress.com. That's jobs@DaytonProgress.com. Dayton Progress is an equal opportunity employer.
Hunting season has returned at Field & Stream, and there's no better time to stock up on your favorite essentials. Get everything you need for your next outdoor adventure from Spy Point, Sitka, Browning, 10-Point, Winchester, and more top brands. Find the perfect gift for the outdoor enthusiast on your list. Explore our wide assortment of quality gear from the brands you trust and discover exclusive holiday deals in-store and online at fieldandstreamshop.com. Give the gift of adventure this holiday season. Field & Stream, where traditions begin.
This ad for Hellsberg Diamonds has been specifically written for those who'd rather think about football than engagement rings. When free agency starts, your team wants to get the best players they can without spending too much. If your team is you and the players are engagement rings, then your best bet in free agency is shopping at Hellsberg Diamonds, where you know you'll get the highest quality diamonds at prices that keep you from going over the salary cap. Visit your local Hellsberg store and ask about our price match guarantee, or check us out at hellsberg.com.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
There's confusion about how to protect yourself from COVID. One thing is certain, whether you're vaccinated or not, you need an accurate thermometer to check for fever, the leading sign of flu and COVID. Be vigilant and contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever. Don't rely on non-contact thermometers that have no scientific studies. Only the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Learn more at Exergen.com.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Shop Black Friday even earlier at Lowe's with deals on drills, impact drivers, and decor. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine. Weekdays at 3 p.m. right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio, 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to jump in on the conversation. So we started out the show earlier today talking about Dan Patrick's sources. He has sources. Believes that any time now we're going to find out that the college football playoff field will expand to 12. I don't think it's going to kill the sport. It definitely will. I know it won't kill the sport. More playoff games, more money, more ratings, all that. That's not going to kill it. I think, if you're going to water down your regular season, your postseason better be that much more worth it. And I can say that I think that out of all the sports out there, college football's postseason complements the regular season better than anyone else. The NBA, no one really watches the regular season unless you really just watch your team, but no one really you might watch on Christmas Day. And don't waste my time or Kev's time with I don't care about the NBA, stick to sports, blah, blah, blah. This ain't the show for that. You could take that elsewhere. Bottom line, if you don't like the NBA, fine. You don't need to constantly bash those who do. The NBA, though, we know the ratings show, that the influx of viewers come in the postseason. It doesn't. I don't think the regular season and postseason complement one another. The ratings just don't. They're not. The only sport that has high ratings in the regular season and high ratings in the postseason is the NFL and college football. It complements each other perfect. But I do think college football is better than the NFL in this regards. The drama and the urgency is there from the very beginning until the very end. The NFL, there are crucial moments. I think like right now, if you look at the Cleveland Browns, you head into a must-win Sunday against, of all teams, the Detroit Lions. But it's a must-win because it sets up a very tough stretch where you have back-to-back games with the Ravens, of course, divided by a bye week. But it's still like you still have time. It all comes down to wins, losses. You don't have to win pretty. The Bearcats can finish undefeated conference champions, but that 3-week stretch where they won by less than 10 points against 3 horrible teams, that can end up costing them. Now, the committee may not come out and say, hey, they didn't make the playoff because of that 3-week stretch, but because they didn't overly impress the committee in that 3-week stretch, that's what kept them out. In a 12-team playoff, Cincinnati, there's no pressure to play well. Just win. And I don't know if that helps the sport. I don't understand why people get mad at style points. I think that there should be I think that, you should up the ante. I think that teams should be held to a standard of looking dominant. That's kind of what I like. Like, for instance, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. I mean, they're 5 wins, 3 losses and a tie. And you look at that, you're like, man, I don't get how a team that plays that bad somehow has 5 wins. Now, they're coached well. They grind games out. But no one looks at them compared to all the other 5-win teams and says, oh, that's one of the top 5-win teams. That might be one of the worst 5-win teams, right? Now, in the NFL, that's a playoff team if the season ended today, right? In college football, that's not a playoff team, and that's why I like the college football playoff, because you can't hide behind end results of games. In the NFL, you could hide behind end results of games. That's what I don't like. The Bearcats want the NFL treatment of, well, it doesn't matter how we win, just that we win. Not a terrible mindset to have, but at the same time, when you have so many teams and only 4 playoff spots, I don't know how else to decipher who gets in other than being nitpicky and starting to carve it down to the bare bones and splitting hairs. And I don't think that point differential, I don't think that, eye test, I don't think all of that is that unfair when you think about how unfair it actually is. Now, the one argument I heard earlier in the show was that Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State, they hold 57% of the spots in the college football playoff. And there's only been 1 year that Alabama has not made the playoff. Ohio State's missed it multiple years. Clemson's missed it multiple years. But other than that, everyone says, the 14 playoff, it's the same teams every year. Well, in the NFL, it's the same teams in the playoff almost every year. We're always talking about the Steelers. We're always talking about the Patriots. We're always talking about those teams. Now, they have a balance of new teams coming in regularly. 4 years ago, the thought of the Chiefs being a potential dynasty, we would have laughed at that, right? Now, it's not so laughable. They're balancing out. But every year, the Ravens are in the playoff. Every year, the Steelers are there. Every year, those teams are there. More times. So it's like the same teams are always in the playoffs, even in baseball. We don't like to talk about, baseball. It's so difficult to make the playoffs, but more times than not, we're always talking about the Yankees. We're always talking about the Red Sox. We're always talking about the Astros. We're always talking about those teams. So that's not a reason to expand the playoffs because, the same teams get in every year. The NBA, it's the same teams every year. Same teams, different seed. Sometimes not even that. College football playoff, it's actually not the same teams every single year. Remember, we have a small sample size. It's only year 8. Year 7 or year 8. So if you expand to 12, Kev, it will be the same teams every year with maybe a revolving door of teams 11 and 12 because they might get the sympathy picks to the Cincinnatis or the non-power 5s of the world. But you mean to tell me Alabama won't be in every year, Ohio State won't be in every year, that you won't have Oklahoma in every single year? I know they're going to the SEC. But, Kev, I think that going to the 12 team to avoid having the same teams in every year, I think you're actually making sure it's the same teams every year.
Absolutely. It's going to make it easier for those brand name teams to get in even more, So let's just say that a Northwestern is having one of those magical seasons again. Okay, y'all in, but guess who else in? Y'all beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Yeah, they're still in it, and you're going to have to see them again. Now you're going to have to see them again, and they're pissed off about it. You know what I mean? So it's just going to put those other power teams in. You're going to give them yet another mulligan. You get to mulligan with the one loss. Now you're going to give them another mulligan. So it's just going to make more rooms for the teams that are allowed a mistake. You're going to allow them to get 2 and 3 mistakes. So you're going to give them more at-bats to get you in the long run. So I don't know, man. I'm not necessarily here for a 12-team expansion. I'm here for maybe a 6, 8, but a 12. Oh my goodness, man! It is the NFL at that point.
All right, hour 2 in the books. Our upset alerts coming up on the other side. Yesterday we had the battle with Mikey. I'm not interested in battles today. I want to head into the weekend in a good mood. But I do believe that battles with guys like Mikey and others stem from obviously different opinions, obviously. But it's like you end up having 2 different opinions because of 2 different views on certain things. And I think that it'd be easier to come together on sports opinions more if we were all able to understand where the other side's coming from when it comes to the perception of expectations for one's team. What I want to get into is what are fair expectations for all of our teams, whether it be the Browns, the Bengals, whether it be the Bearcats, Ohio State Buckeyes on the hardwood and on the football field, the Dayton Flyers, the Wright State Raiders, and more. If we all know, I remember hearing an interview with Stephen A. Smith one time. He says that the one rule he has when he interviews coaches before every season is he'll always ask a coach, what are your expectations for the season? If they say championship, he holds them to that. If they say playoff, he holds them to that. Whatever every opinion that he has on a team or a player throughout the year that he's talked to, he bases it off what they tell him the expectations are. So for me to truly understand who you are as fans, tell me what your expectations of your teams are. And they can't be vague. Don't say good. I expect them to be good. But like if you're the Dayton Flyers and you have all that money, you have all those resources, you brag about it every single chance you get. You have great facilities. I mean, that arena is unlike anything I've seen for a team that's not in a Power 5 conference. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable even for teams who are in a Power 5 conference. It is that big of a deal. So you can't brag about all of those things, and then when things don't go well, start sitting back on the excuses that the small mid-major schools do. So I want to get all on the same page. For me to truly understand you, the fans, whether it be a Dayton Flyers fan, a Bengals fan, Browns, Buckeyes, whoever, I want us to all get on the same page as far as what are realistic expectations for our team's results. That's all coming up in hour number 2. Upset alert, all of that as we close out a Friday next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
Nothing protects your engine better than AMSOIL lubricants. Get ready for winter. Protect your investment. AMSOIL, the first in synthetic since 1972. Come out to Homestead Feed and Supply, 1833 North, Dayton Lakeview Road. Tell them the Colonel sent you.
Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street are huge supporters of the Dayton Flyers. Whether you're one of the 13,000 fans cheering on the Flyers at UD Arena or one of the hundreds of fans packed inside Tim's on game day, there is only 2 places that you can feel the passion of the Flyer faithful more than anywhere else. Timothy's Bar and Grill is also a sponsor of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash in the afternoons and the Talking Out Loud Hour on Thursday nights with Sully. Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Go Flyers.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
There's confusion about how to protect yourself from COVID. One thing is certain, whether you're vaccinated or not, you need an accurate thermometer to check for fever, the leading sign of flu and COVID. Be vigilant and contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever. Don't rely on non-contact thermometers that have no scientific studies. Only the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Learn more at Exergen.com.
The holidays are already here at Lowe's. Get pre-lit artificial trees starting at $99. Home to any budget, home to any possibility. While supplies last, valid 11/4 through 11/10.
NFL fans, the season is finally here. Touchdown! Get your picks submitted at wingam.com. Click on contest and enter the Pro Football Challenge. Weekly winners will win $20 in Frickers Fun Bucks. Get to wingam.com and get your NFL picks submitted now.
Touchdown! Incredible!
Good luck. College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byers Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio. We're live. We're local. We're Dayton's ESPN radio station. Now, let's send it to the WING studios for Dayton's only local sports talk show. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Orion Sports Medicine.
So Myles Garrett calls out his coaching staff earlier in the week, and then when asked about it today, had the nerve to say, "No, we cool. Ain't got any issues." There's a problem I have. Look, you can't start a crap storm with the media and then feed crap back to the media when they ask you about it later. Like, I know I sound hypocritical because, like, some players, if they start talking bad about their coaches and creating havoc, some players we call a cancer in a locker room, right? For whatever reason, and I'm not saying it can't happen, Kev, maybe a Jerry Rice. How many leaders in the NFL come from the wide receiver position? I know Myles Garrett's not a wide receiver. I'm getting somewhere with this, but how many leaders in the NFL have led from the wide receiver position?
Man, that's a good question.
Not saying it can't happen, but
Steve Smith from the Panthers. I thought he was a pretty good leader. I mean, he helped them get to the Super Bowl. Versus
when you got Jake Delhomme as a quarterback, it's like he never really had the guy, Jarvis in an on-field way, more than a at the mic as the face of the franchise type way.
I would even say Chad Johnson to some extent. I mean, people may have not liked the antics and the celebrations and everything like that, but he definitely was the face of that team and like the leader. I mean, some people may not like the way he led, but like that swag that he brought to the field, that confidence he brought to the field and everything like that, like him and TJ Houshmandzadeh, like they were a dynamic duo in the AFC for a long time. And, if it wasn't for Kimo Ovenhoff ripping up Carson Palmer's knee, who knows what had happened with the Cincinnati Bengals during that era.
Well, see, here's Ocho Cinco, whatever the hell his name is. I don't mind saying I look at him as more of an on-field leader, like the team rallied around him. But what I mean is like a leader is somebody I believe that can call out a player, a teammate, a coach, the team's performance to the media and not be deemed as a locker room cancer. And that's not Ocho Cinco's fault. But the wide receiver position usually is not a guy that can go to the media, say, hey, we got to get our blank figured out. We're not calling, our coaches have a problem. It's not the receiver's fault, but that's a position that for whatever reason, the perception is if they talk like that to the media, they're a locker room cancer, right? They're the OBJs of the world. So it's not fair, but that's just the reality of it. The reason I bring that up is because when I talk about OBJ and guys like that who just become distractions, like if anyone would have done or said what Myles Garrett did, they would have been beat up on.
Yeah.
I was fine with what Myles Garrett said is because I was like, is somebody of that stature going to speak up about the struggles? Because at some point you do get tired of hearing the same old, who's got to be better. Who's got to be, we weren't good this week. We were outcoached. They wanted it more than us. Like, I'm sick of all those answers. Like, at some point when your back's against the wall and we're not 3 weeks into the season, we're 10 weeks into the season. I have no problem with Myles Garrett coming out and questioning the adjustments that were being made or lack thereof not being made. I have no problem with Myles Garrett doing that. But Myles Garrett today coming out to the media saying there was never a rift between myself and Joe Woods or the coaching staff. I was just frustrated because I felt like we could have done more. So maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe I'm changing my mind mid-conversation about this. So I changed my mind. I don't have a problem with what he said. I misread that. He's saying we didn't really have a rift. I was just frustrated because I felt like we could have done more. So I just wasted everyone's time. I was going somewhere with that, but I did misread the quote. I guess I don't mind that response by Myles Garrett, but I do believe Myles Garrett can get away with that. For one, you're one of the highest paid players on the team. You're the best player on the team. You can argue between him, who's more impactful between him and Nick Chubb. But at this point, I do think players need to speak up at a certain point. It's not like it's week 3. If it's week 3, I'm like, okay, players need to calm down, be quiet. Like it's not the time. 10 weeks in, I've heard everything I need to hear from Stefanski. He's proving he's not going to make the right adjustments as the season goes on. Joe Woods has been making the same lame mistakes for 2 years now, and he has a super talented roster this year, and they look as bad. Actually, they're statistically worse this year as far as the secondary is concerned than they were a year ago, and the secondary is way more talented this year. Defensively, it's frustrating watching what we're watching. I don't mind when players speak up to a certain extent, because I do, and I've said this about Joey Votto the other day. Remember we talked about him and AJ Green. I do believe when he was at the Bengals, I said I wish star players would speak up more when their teams are drowning, because sometimes when you're drowning, that means no one has handed you a life reserve to be, a life vest to be able to kind of stay afloat. I have no problem with Myles Garrett doing that. I don't want it to be a weekly thing, but I hope that the coaches took notice to that. I think there's a fine line between calling your team out and totally burying your coaching staff. But I do believe after that performance last week, I don't want to hear from Stefanski. I want to hear from the players. Kev, I had no problem with Myles Garrett coming out the way he did.
I did, only because of the way he was playing. I don't think that Myles Garrett plays in a, how can I say this? On a string. You hear that more in basketball. You got to play defense on a string. Everybody got to be on the same page. And, they exploited what he likes to do. He likes to get after the passer, and he doesn't, play the screen pass well. And whenever New England needed a first down, they ran a screen to his side. And especially in football, especially at the defensive end position, your goal is to raise hell. That be a game wrecker. Be a game wrecker. Be a game changer. And that's not what I see from Myles Garrett. I really never saw that from Myles Garrett. And didn't even see that from him in college, like a game wrecker and everything like that. The talent is there. The physical gifts are there. But there's a huge difference in between his sacks and someone else's sacks. Like, okay, Myles Garrett, like he had that 4-sack performance against the Bears, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between him and TJ Watt when TJ Watt gets his sacks and how he gets his sacks. Like TJ Watt, when he makes a play, it's in the fourth quarter. It's when the team needs it. Those are the impact plays that you expect out of your lead guy. You get that out of your impact player on offense and Nick Chubb. When you need to ice the game, what does Nick Chubb do? He busts a long run. He trucks somebody. He runs somebody over. Like, you need impact plays. Like, you got an impact play from Denzel Ward early in the game. Like, Denzel Ward's problem isn't making impact plays. His problem is staying healthy. My problem with Myles Garrett is I don't see him make impact plays. And some people that say, oh, man, look at all these sacks, look at all these numbers. But when are they happening? Are they happening when the team needs them to happen on a critical third down? I don't see that happening from him. So for me personally, I would be asking him, like a defensive leader on the team, like a John Johnson, because he was a leader on that team out there with the Rams. Like, I would be saying, hey, man, we need you to step up and make some plays as opposed to calling out the coaches. Yeah, no doubt about it. Some of these strange things that are going on with the Cleveland Browns are quite alarming with all this talent. But as a defensive player and a guy that really isn't asked to do too many things, like a linebacker has a lot of responsibilities. A safety has a ton of responsibilities. A defensive end really has 2 responsibilities: kill the quarterback, hold the edge. And he's only seemed to be concerned about killing the quarterback.
Well, I mean, look, that would make a whole lot of sense if the dude wasn't leading the league in sacks, and he is doing his job. And I think because he is a guy leading the league in sacks, he does have the right to be able to voice his displeasure. And he never once said everybody else. He kept saying we. There is no, I'm doing my job, what's everyone else doing? I mean, he just said we made no adjustments. We didn't do this. So that's why I had no problem with what he was doing. But it's not as if like he hasn't been contributing. I mean, he is leading the league in sacks. He's doing his job. And really, the part of the defense that has let them down, it's not pass rush. They're one of the top pass rushing teams in football, not just from his standpoint, but from as a team. The pass rush is what they're doing well. It's the linebacker play. It's the secondary play. It's the fact that Joe Burrow, not just Joe Burrow, but I'm thinking about the Bengals game where everyone talked about how great they played. I'm like, Joe Burrow still moved that ball at ease against the Browns defense. I mean, between the 20s, it was effortless moving that ball, just like it was for Mac Jones and the Patriots, just like it's been pretty much for the majority of the season. Then what ends up happening is they run into offenses that aren't very good, like the Steelers, where they hold them to 15 or 16 points. And everyone's like, oh, they showed up today. The offense didn't show up. They show up against bad teams like the Bears offensively. Oh, man, the Browns defense showed up today. Okay, it's easy to stuff bad teams. Everyone's licking their chops for the Lions this week. I'm not going to be doing cartwheels and jumping jacks when the Browns defense beats up on the Lions this Sunday, because the Lions offense is horrible. It's really, I need them to show that they could do this against a good quality team. And they're going to have their work cut out for them against the Ravens coming up with Lamar Jackson back-to-back games. I know it's going to be divided by a bye week, but they have way too many tough opponents coming up. They still have another matchup with the Bengals. Luckily, it's in Cleveland this time. But, Joe Burrow, I know he didn't play well against Cleveland, but my goodness, he moved the ball at ease. It was when he got into the red zone that Joe Burrow really struggled against Cincinnati. They have a lot of tough games still left. I just don't have a problem with Myles Garrett calling out the defensive side of the ball when he's the leader. Yes, I know you're saying that the timing could be different, but that's like saying, James Harden, if your points aren't coming in the clutch, you can't be talking about other players not scoring, especially if he's leading the team in scoring. We can nitpick when the points come. We can nitpick when the sacks come. But the point is the numbers are there to back up being the leader of that defense, and he's backing it up. He's doing his job. And sometimes it's not getting to the quarterback that's hurting this team. It's the fact that they're wide open. These guys, wide receivers, are wide the bleep open. But that's what's nauseating to me, and that's what's costing this team games. Big picture. Offense isn't helping either. I get that. But giving up 45 points, and a lot of that through the air, that's a problem. Giving up, you go back to, the Cardinals game. Go back to the Chargers game. All of that wide open wide receivers, off the guys moving the ball at ease. It's because of that secondary. It's just not a good thing. And they've had, Complimentary play. Tack McKinley hasn't been horrible. Guys like that, Jadeveon Clowney. These pass rush guys are sick of doing all the heavy lifting just so these wide receivers could be wide open. They're getting the pressure on the quarterback, but what's the good of putting the pressure on the quarterback when wide receivers are being left wide open? Usually you put pressure on the quarterback, force quarterbacks to make bad throws, and that's when the secondary takes advantage and forces turnovers, and that just hasn't been the end result, and that's been the Woods defense. This has been a multi-year thing. It's not like it's only this year. It's been a 2-year thing now, and that's the problem. It doesn't matter who the personnel is. It's the scheme, and the scheme has not been working for Cleveland, and that's going to be the thing moving forward. They're going to get lit up, and that's going to be the biggest thing moving forward.
Yeah, the scheme is definitely something to behold. I mean, you would imagine that a lot of these college concepts have made their way to the NFL offensively. You would imagine they would make their way to the NFL because the Browns, they want to run a 4-2-5. That's what they want to run. But they're not running it. I mean, obviously they're not running it correctly. You know what I'm saying? There's blown coverages all over the place and everything like that. So I'm kind of blown away. I mean, maybe he's obviously not teaching it to them the correct way, but I'm blown away like some of these defenses from college haven't made their way to the pros like that 3-3-5 stack and everything like that, or the 4-2-5 and everything like that. Is really mainly guys in the NFL really running the base defense, or if they want to get real crazy, they run a 3-4 and everything like that. I'm surprised that those defenses from college haven't made their way to the NFL as much.
All right. Another thing, too, Kevin Stefanski announced today that Baker Mayfield will start for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday against the Lions. Bobby Carpenter tweeted out yesterday that, man, like, what is the point of throwing Baker Mayfield out there, who is not, again, everyone's banged up at this time of the season, but the dude has his labrums all beat up, has a broken bone in his non-throwing shoulder. He has issues with his knees and his ankle now. I mean, he's beat up all over the place. And at this point, yes, every game is must win when you're 5-5 and you're coming off that embarrassing loss against the Patriots this past Sunday, and you have to get this win. But you get Nick Chubb back. You have everyone back on the defensive side of the ball. Like, you're starting to get more, healthy up front. You don't need Baker Mayfield to beat the Lions. If there's ever a game to rest Baker Mayfield, you rest him against the Lions. You need him healthy against the Ravens. If he gets beat up against the Ravens, you have a bye week right after that. I have no clue why Kevin Stefanski is forcing Baker Mayfield out there this Sunday. They do not need Baker Mayfield to beat the Lions. They need Baker Mayfield against the Ravens if they want a shot at basically resalvaging this season. And I just think that it's going to be foolish to throw Baker out there. If they're an 11-point, 12-point favorite now, it sounds like Goff isn't going to play. So if the Browns are up 17-3, Baker Mayfield gets hit throwing another touchdown or what have you, and now he's out for the rest of that game, possibly out against the Ravens. You beat the Lions, super. You didn't need him to beat the Lions. You need him healthy against the Ravens. At the very least, you need to split that back-to-back with the Ravens. I just think it would be foolish to have him even more banged up heading into the Ravens. I'd rather give him an extra week of rest, make sure he's healthy for that game one against the Ravens. Then you have another bye week after that to rest even more. I have no clue why they're forcing him to play this game. I know Baker says he's good and ready to go, but this is where Kevin Stefanski has to be the leader. He has to be the guy, and I think he would get that locker room's attention real quick if he makes a decision that's best for the team as a whole, big picture, as opposed to doing what's going to keep Baker happy for 1 week. I love Baker. I want to see him out there playing, but I'm going to be really pissed off if he goes out there and plays on Sunday and gets hurt in a meaningless, well, I shouldn't say meaningless, it's a meaningful game. You can't beat the Lions without Baker Mayfield, then there's no point of even considering this team a playoff team moving forward. Let Case Keenum get this win. Case Keenum got you a win against a bad Broncos team a few weeks ago. Let him go get you another win against a bad Lions team and let Baker rest up for the Ravens. I'm ticked off that he's playing Sunday. I don't want him out there on Sunday. I just don't.
I'm not sure what the point is. I mean, you have a backup quarterback for a reason. This is why you have
the highest paid one.
Yeah, this is the reason you have a backup quarterback that you pay a lot of money for. And a backup quarterback's job is to step in when the number one is hurt. And especially a guy that has a rapport with you. You were the offensive play caller during Case Keenum's best season in the NFL. So he knows your offense. He knows he's been with this team for 2 years already. So it isn't like this dude's a rookie or anything like that. So I think you should be playing Case Keenum. Obviously, let Baker heal up and get ready for this stretch run. Because, I mean, obviously, Baker Mayfield is the number one. There's no quarterback controversy out here. Like, he's the starter. He's the number one overall pick. He's played good football in the past, especially the back half of last year. So there's no need to have him out there right now. You're not going to cause a controversy. The dude's banged up, you know? And, you know, it's a luxury to have a quality backup quarterback. I'm speaking for my team, who does not have a quality backup quarterback. And some would argue we don't have a quality starter anymore. No offense, Big Ben. You're still going to the Hall of Fame. I love you. But, you know, it's just a situation with the Browns. Like, who's calling the shots here? Is Baker Mayfield and his camp calling the shots saying, no, I'm playing? Because I don't know why he will want to be playing either. I mean, you know, the selfish reasons would be like, look, man, let me get healed up and let me play to my best ability when I'm feeling better so I can go ahead and get this contract, right? But, I mean, I know, like, this is the NFL and it's full of tough guys, so it's going to be hard to tell a dude he can't play, but that's his job. That's Stefanski's job to say, look, we're going to sit you down for this game, get you healed up and get you ready for these 2 games versus the Ravens because we're going to need them both because you're my guy. So let's Case Keenum take care of the Lions and we get you ready for the next game. I don't understand the problem with that. I mean, I know Baker as a competitor, he's not going to like it. I actually saw that video popped up on my timeline of him getting into it with the Kansas fans his senior year and everything like that, him grabbing his crotch and giving them the bird and everything like that because they wouldn't shake his hand at the coin toss and everything like that. I know Baker's a fiery dude, and I know this is the stuff that drives him, people telling him he can't do something and everything like that. So I know he's getting pumped up. This is fueling him to go out there on Sunday, but you got to think about this from the long stretch. You got to think about this for the long play. Not only he does, but Stefanski does as well.
Yeah, The Last Dance, and I'm not comparing, Baker is not Michael Jordan. God, it even makes me nauseous even trying to bring this up and compare. But that's the point. If Michael Jeffrey Jordan could be told to sit down and rest your ankle or whatever it was that he heard against his wishes, and that's the GOAT, Baker, you need to shut up. Baker needs to be going into that office and saying, all right, guys, I feel like I'm ready to go. What do you guys think? Not, hey, I'm going. I'm ready to go. And if he is doing that, that's not shame on him. That's shame on Stefanski. Because that's the tone you've set. As a coach, you're letting him make that call. You got to protect the player against himself sometimes. And again, we don't know what's all transpiring at camp and all that. But like right now, when Stefanski came out today and announced that he was going to be the starter, that's the problem I have. He should not be starting on Sunday, period. And I think even non-Browns fans are saying the same thing. Whether you think he's good or not, if there's ever a game that you're going to risk him further injuring himself, at least go down fighting against the Ravens. What is the purpose of going down fighting against the Lions, who you are, especially with Nick Chubb back? Kev, I could see if Nick Chubb, if they said he was going to be out again on Sunday, I could see why maybe he was wanting to edge it out because you definitely don't want to lose to the Lions. But if Case Keenum can't win a game with Nick Chubb and that offensive line and that defense against a backup quarterback for the Lions, there's no purpose in him being out there. And if Baker only goes out and plays a half and they rest him in the second half, I'm still angry. Even if nothing bad happens, it's the fact that you risked it. You almost let it happen. That's why I have a problem with allowing him to play on Sunday. I'm the biggest Baker Mayfield fan out there, but I have a huge problem with him playing on Sunday. Yes, Baker, of course, he says he wants to play. That's right. The competitive nature in him. But Kevin Stefanski's proven not being a good leader right now by making that decision to let him play. It just doesn't make sense. And you're right. It's not like you have Mason Rudolph behind him. You have a capable quarterback who can go and win you a game, one who's already won you a damn game this year.
Right. My question, I guess, is more for KB because he would know he played in the league. How much do GMs have say-so in personnel that actually gets on the field? Because what is Andrew Berry thinking about this? Like it should be a collective decision, right? It shouldn't just be one person making the call, right? It should be a collective. It should be, obviously, Baker has some type of say-so. The doctors have a lot of say-so. Coach has a say-so, and I would imagine the GM has some type of input as well. I think it should be a collective decision on how they're going to go forward. It shouldn't be strictly on the player because, obviously, Baker will go out there with one arm He's basically been out there with one arm half the season, everything like that. So there's no question what he's going to say. Baker's going to say, I'm playing. Okay, we got it. You're a tough guy. You're a football player. Got it. So we already know where that vote is going. Apparently, coach has the vote to have him play too. And the doctors are saying, well, you can't hurt it anymore. Go out there and play. What does Andrew Berry have to say about this? He's the GM. He's the one that's going to have to be doing all the money management and everything like that. Does he have a say-so in this? That's just a question. I'm not sure.
No, that's fair. And let's be clear. The fact that we've heard more of what the player wants from the player than from the actual guys in charge, that's kind of a little alarming. Look, Andrew Berry's done a fantastic job. For sure. The only reason the Browns are being criticized is because they have expectations. The only reason they have expectations is because they have talent. The only reason they have talent is because the way the roster was constructed, yes, by Andrew Berry. I know some of that was done before he got there, but keeping it in place, look at the guys he added in the offseason. I know it hasn't panned out. Kev, I've never understood why GMs get ripped for adding talent and then it doesn't work. I get that, like, you have to be held accountable for results, but, like, the results, if your results don't match up to your expectations, the only reason you have expectations is because your GM brought in talent to raise those expectations. I'm not mad at Andrew Berry for these not working. I heard Stephen A. Smith and some others saying Andrew Berry deserves some criticism for this not working out. Yes and no. I say Andrew Berry might deserve criticism if you let Stefanski continue to let, Baker play. At this, what I mean, like, injured against a bad team like the Lions, but, like, I think Andrew Berry still, there's no need to doubt his ability. Look at what he has done. The way he's constructed. He's gotten some big long-term deals done with his offensive line. It's the best offensive line in football. He locked it up. He got deals done with Nick Chubb. He got an extension with Kareem Hunt. All right, like, they're working on a deal with Baker. And I still think the best thing for the Browns is getting a deal done with Baker that's not a max deal. People act like, oh, man, they shouldn't pay him. I believe they should pay him. I don't think they should pay him top dollar. But you get him at 25 or 30, the Browns are set. Because now, while other teams have all their dollars invested into their one quarterback and don't have a whole lot of other money to put talent around him, Baker, limited talent with a ton of talent around him. I'll take that over a super talented Lamar Jackson with limited talent around him once he gets paid. I think the Browns are in good shape. They need to find a way to get a deal done with Baker to keep him happy, even at a limited value, because that's what they have to sell to him. Hey, we could put talent around you at a limited, we can't pay you what you are wanting. The talent, your results just don't match what you're wanting. The individual talent's not there, but you accept this deal. We can get receivers around you. We can keep this O-line intact. You'll have Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Like, you'll have the weapons around you to still be successful. But paying Baker the max in losing talent, that's when you're in trouble. So we'll see what happens from here.
What were Stephen A. talking about with Andrew Berry should be holding some of this blame as well? I didn't see that.
It was about who's to blame for the Browns' struggles this year. And, of course, Baker, it was mainly about Baker and Kevin Stefanski. And then Stephen A. had brought up, we can't let, every other general manager we hold accountable. Let's not let him off the hook here, too. And I'm like, no. Andrew Berry, no. If you're mad at, he provided the chef with all the top-notch ingredients. You got to get mad at the chef here. You can't get mad at the owner of the restaurant. That's kind of where I'm at with this particular situation. So,
did he hire? I'm not sure if you know, but did he hire the DC?
That's Stefanski's guy. Basically anything that happens under his watch.
Okay. I guess that's probably will be the question mark I will have for him. And, like I said before, with the whole, like, do GMs have a voice in this where your quarterback is banged up, or is they just kind of like leave it all up to the football staff? Are they just behind the scenes scouting players and crunching numbers? Just a question. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's just team to team.
Theo says it's Stefanski's fault. He says, don't pay Baker, look for another. Theo, my only argument against guys like you that say that, anyone that has the opinion of, don't pay him. Well, who? That's always the big thing about that. Like, you act like, if there's a better option at quarterback out there, don't you think that teams would already have it, or that the Browns would have already grabbed that guy, or what have you? Like, there's not a lot of options out there that are better than Baker. You could pursue trades for an Aaron Rodgers. You could pursue trades for a Russell Wilson. But let me be honest. If you want Aaron Rodgers, that's super. You're going to have to lose a lot to get him. Oh, the roster now. If you think dropping Aaron Rodgers on this roster is great, it is. But financially, it's not going to work. You can't bring Aaron Rodgers' contract over here and keep everyone on the defensive side of the ball and keep everyone on the offensive. You're going to have to let go of somebody. You bring Russell Wilson over, same thing. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'd rather take my chances with Aaron Rodgers, who elevates talent. Russell Wilson, I mean, his teams have been playoff teams every year, and Cleveland will be a playoff team with them, but they're not going to be anything special with him. He's better than Baker, but how much better is he to elevate this team to that next level? Because you bring Russell Wilson over, is Russell Wilson going to tackle? Is he going to stop wide open receivers from getting into the end zone untouched, butt naked, as Kev always says? I don't think so. I don't think that helps him at all right now. Baker is a problem. He's not the problem. Theo says the draft. Theo, come on now. Who in that draft is better than Baker? Who? Nobody. I sound like an owl right now. Who? Nobody.
I mean, like I talked about, I think we talked about this earlier this week. I'm not good on any of these dudes in the first round. The only guy that I would take a flyer on is Matt Corral, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. The rest of these dudes are second, third round picks at best to me. The Sam Howells, the Sam Hartmans, the TJ Daniels, those guys are all like kind of the same to me. Like, I don't think any of them like kind of jump off the page and say like, all right, man, this dude is special. This dude does this special. This dude plays special. They really kind of all run the same type of offense. Is very play action based. Granted, that's what the Browns do and everything like that. But you want to have somebody that's special at the quarterback position if you're going to be willing to go off of Baker and go draft a dude in the first round. You got to be special.
Yeah, and the thing is, every team wants a special quarterback. Everyone wants a guy that, oh, man, we want a really, really good quarterback. Of course you do. They're not easy to find. There are 16 teams who would kill to have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. We can go down that list. There's a lot of teams who don't know who their quarterback is. There's teams like the Jets who have had top draft picks. I mean, between drafting Sam Darnold, drafting Wilson, you think that they wouldn't prefer to have a Baker Mayfield to stabilize who their quarterback situation is right now? The only reason the Browns are able to focus on the offensive line, the only reason the Browns were able to go get an OBJ at the time, I know it didn't work out, but it wasn't a bad move at the time. It was the smart, provides your quarterback with the weapon. I don't think that's a horrible thing. The only reason the Browns were able to make those moves is because they felt confident who they had a quarterback. You know why the Jets keep just running in place? Because they can't figure out who the hell their quarterback is. They're starting Joe freaking Flacco.
Wacko Flacco.
By the way, what?
Wacko Flacco.
Wacko Flacco, Waka Flocka. I mean, I don't care who you have back there. You're not starting Joe Flacco in Cleveland over Baker Mayfield. The Jets are a disaster because it's a revolving door at quarterback. They would kill for stability at quarterback. Is Baker the top quarterback in the NFL? No. But the one thing he has done is he's added some stability at a position that has kept the Browns from being able to move forward in any kind of way. Something the Bengals are hoping that's with Joe Burrow right now.
Are we playing Baker or Taker on Monday?
Yes. Yes. Baker or Taker?
My favorite game.
I had him in the top 10 last year. He's not in the top 10 now, but he's not in the bottom 15. I tell you that much. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. Upset City, baby. Kev, you got your upsets?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll give you our upsets out of the NFL and college football next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be clear and sunny, a high near 43. Tonight will be partly cloudy, a low near 30, and tomorrow will be mostly cloudy, a high near 50. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Call It Propane has been serving the Buckeye Nation in the Miami Valley for over 65 years.
Let our family help protect your family from old man winter. Find out why 98% of our customers would recommend us to friends and family. Ask about the service options at 937-372-9194.
Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Call It Propane and Call It Seal Coating are proud to serve the Buckeye Nation.
There's confusion about how to protect yourself from COVID. One thing is certain, whether you're vaccinated or not, you need an accurate thermometer to check for fever, the leading sign of flu and COVID. Be vigilant and contact your medical provider at the first sign of fever. Don't rely on non-contact thermometers that have no scientific studies. Only the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate in more than 100 clinical studies. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Hammering headaches? Ow. Aching muscles? Ah. Put the squeeze on your tough pain with Goody's Cool Orange. The same fast-acting, powerful Goody's powder in a great-tasting Cool Orange flavor. Beat tough pain to a pulp with Goody's Cool Orange. Also, blast your pain away with Goody's Mixed Fruit Blast. 2 flavors, tough on pain, tasty on your tongue. We made Goody's fast, Goody's delicious. All available at Dollar General.
I'm so tired of this car.
I've been telling you we need a new one.
I know, but we really don't have it in our budget.
Well, I heard about this great place called Drive One Car and Truck in Springfield. They say they have dependable vehicles to fit everyone's budget. I'm looking online now on their website, and they have a huge selection of late model, clean, great-looking vehicles. I'm going to call them, and then we can go check them out.
Upper Valley Pike and East National Road in Springfield, 505-3653. Online at driveonecarandtruck.com.
Let's go.
Dayton Barrel Works Bourbon and Whiskey Bash is Saturday, November 20th, noon till 3 p.m. Over 40 bourbons and whiskeys to sample. For tickets, call 937-228-2337. Dayton Barrel Works, 318 East 2nd Street in Dayton.
Fall is here, and Rob's Beer Barn is stocked. Seasonal refreshments and holiday beers have arrived, just in time for your favorite sporting events. Rob's Beer Barn has you covered for your family holiday plans. At Rob's, you'll find all the ice-cold refreshments you'll need. Craft, imported, local, and seasonal beers, fine wines, snacks, and ice. Plus, Rob's Beer Barn has apparel. For last-minute items, you can call, walk in, or drive through. Stock up today. Rob's Beer Barn on Indian Ripple Road at Darst, just a mile east of the green. Rob's Beer Barn. Just look for the beaver.
Looking for a career and not just a job? Then Dayton Progress is looking for you. Dayton Progress is the leading international manufacturer of tools and tooling components for the metal stamping industries and has immediate openings for their entry-level machinists. No prior experience is required, and Dayton Progress will train you, starting with the basics. They offer competitive wages starting at $15 per hour and up to $18 per hour with prior experience. New hires are eligible for merit increases after 90 days of employment. They also offer private health care, including vision and dental, free life insurance, a contributory 401k, promotions from within, company service recognition, and 100% tuition reimbursement to local state colleges. Dayton Progress is a great place to work and has been a Dayton landmark for over 70 years. Apply today by emailing your resume to jobs@DaytonProgress.com. That's jobs@DaytonProgress.com. Dayton Progress is an equal opportunity employer.
Hustler Turf commercial mowers are built tough to work hard. Whether you need a fleet of mowers or are a one-man show, you don't have time for downtime. Hustler mowers are over-engineered, overbuilt, and tested well beyond what is required with the most complete lineup in the industry, including exclusives like a 104-inch Super 104, an 88-inch stand-on, and industry-leading warranties. Hustler mowers are ready to handle what you throw at them. Build your fleet to be reliable and versatile with Hustler Turf. Visit Small Engine Service Pros in New Carlisle today.
Need a U.S. passport? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. Visit one of our convenient auto title locations in Huber Heights, Clayton, downtown, Moraine, and Centerville. Make us your first destination before you travel abroad. No appointments ever needed. We do passports.com for more info.
Hundreds of thousands of people have said goodbye to their overpriced Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile plans and switched to Pure Talk. It's CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Did you know Pure Talk gives you the same great coverage on the same great 5G network as one of the big guys for about half the cost? The average family is saving over $800 a year. You can keep your number and keep your phone or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data is just $30 a month. Or if you want unlimited data, you can still save a fortune. With US-based customer service, Pure Talk treats their customers right. Plus, they have a 30-day risk-free guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Jill50 to save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Jill50. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless.
It's officially holiday season, and you can get more pizzazz for your party by shopping premium brands with eBay's exclusive deals. The host with the most knows you can get more when you get it on eBay.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER. And ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, upset alert. College football, a lot of big games, or at least a lot of big games on the horizon. Outside of Ohio State and Michigan State, not a whole lot of big, sexy matchups this weekend, but there are a lot of matchups I've circled that I'm like, man, I could see an upset happening there. And Kevin and I will give you our upset selections coming up here in just a few moments. But so the Holiday Help Out, that's an event that Kev Nash and I usually assist with every year, or at least Kev will be assisting this year. Due to me being sick, we're here doing the show from the studios this week. Usually we are out at the Firehouse over in Trotwood on 5469 Little Richmond Road in Trotwood. But Faith Daniels with our sister station, 92.1 WROU, does the Holiday Help Out every year and helps collect food for the local families in need this holiday season to help provide as many families in need with a Thanksgiving meal this holiday season. And it's something that's really cool every year. Faith literally lives out at the Firehouse Friday, Saturday, leaves Sunday afternoon, and just collects hundreds of pounds of food. They separate it. They make sure that this food gets delivered to local families in need throughout the Dayton area. And Faith, again, does this at the Firehouse on 5469 Little Richmond Road in Trotwood. It's a very cool event, especially at this time of year. So many families in need, and I think it's a really cool thing we've been involved with in helping Faith. Faith, this has been her baby for years. She's done an awesome job. Kev, you've seen her hard at work. You're hard at work at this every year. We like to assist and do our little parts every year. Unfortunately, we're not out there this Friday. Usually every Friday we're out there for it. But if you are free this weekend, please go make a donation. Large or small, any donation helps. It all goes to help local families in need during this holiday season. Again, it's the Holiday Help Out, 92.1 WROU and Faith Daniels out at the Firehouse in Trotwood, 5469 Little Richmond Road. Go out there and make your donations. Any little donation or large donation can help. Again, it's just something really cool. Kev, you're going to be out there.
Yeah, I was out there earlier today. I was out there doing my show on Hot. I was out there. I got out there about 9 o'clock, and I left about 1 when my show ended to get back here to the station to do the sports show with you and everything like that. But, we already started having a lot of people come through. It just amazes me how many people give back because, it starts off the same way every year. Like, we start out with nothing. And then by the end, there's thousands of pounds of food. We collect non-perishable food items as well as personal care goods. And then, it's always somebody. We don't know who that somebody is going to be this year. It could be you. It could be somebody listening right now who comes through with turkeys and ham and things of that nature to provide these meals to families that are in need of a good meal for Thanksgiving. And it makes you feel good inside, to give back to people that need it and everything like that. And teaming up with people like the Good Neighbor House who help supply all the local food banks across the city and everything like that. And let's not forget, this is still the 2.5 years of COVID and everything like that. So these food banks have been hit hard. So they need to be replenished and everything like that. And some of the food will go to that. And obviously food go to people to have meals for Thanksgiving. And it's an awesome thing. I'll be out there tomorrow as well from 10 to 1, probably a little bit longer because they got the TV in the back. So at noon, I'll be watching the Ohio State game too. So if you're looking for me around noon, 1 o'clock, and I'm not around, just ask for me. I'll come out the back from watching the Buckeye game.
Yeah, and the Firehouse in Trotwood, they've been awesome partners for Faith and for Hot. And in the work that our stations have done out there. Think back to the tornadoes.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Faith got on the phone with them right away. I mean, there was not a whole lot of time to react. It was just, okay, we need a home base to operate from, and that was the Firehouse at 741. The Firehouse in Trotwood, 5469 Little Richmond Road, and doing that food drive then, with bottled water, anything, and that was our home base there. And Faith always kills it out there. ROU does such a great job. Hot does such a great job, and we're just a fly on the wall there. But we definitely want to push as many of you there as possible. Any little bit helps. So please. Everyone's prepping for their Thanksgivings next week. If you can, go make a small or large donation at the Firehouse in Trotwood, 5469 Little Richmond Road. All right. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on a Friday. We head into the weekend. A week from tomorrow is the game. But to get to the game, Ohio State has to take care of business against that other team in Michigan, or as they like to view themselves as the team in Michigan, Michigan State. Despite the great year they've had, they are a 19-point dog against Ohio State. Kev, before we get to our upsets, let me just ask you right off the bat. Is this one of your upsets? Can Michigan State pull off the upset? It's a 19-point line. I'm not saying lines, or that's a roadblock to a win. But even the money line is saying, hey, we have no faith in Mel Tucker and the Spartans to pull off this upset.
This is not one of my upsets. Upsets. I believe that Ohio State will handle business. We talk about how the Ohio State defense is struggling and everything like that. The one aspect of the defense that plays well and has been playing well ever since that Oregon game, they've been playing good run defense ever since then. And they also have the most touchdowns scored from a defense in the country. So when they get turnovers, they normally take them to the house. So those are thumbs up for the defense. I know they're not the silver bullet defense that we love, but they do hold things down in the running game. And the number one thing that Sparty does is run the ball well. So I think we're not going to we're going to shut down. I'm going to call it. We're going to shut down Walker. We're going to shut down Walker. We're going to keep Walker under 100 yards. In order for Michigan State to beat Ohio State, Walker's going to need to go for 250. He's going to be under 90. It's going to be under 90 yards rushing. Ohio State wins and covers. I'm calling it. Forget it. I'm calling it. Buckeyes covering tomorrow. Let's go.
So I look at Walker as kind of like in basketball when sometimes you got to look at a situation where too many times teams in basketball make a mistake of trying to shut down the opposing team's best player instead of saying, you know what? We know he's going to get his. We just got to make sure that no one around him gets hot. And I know it's a little bit different in football, but I think that he's going to get his anyway. I think what Ohio State has to do is start prioritizing, the strengths of Michigan State and who's that next guy that they have to take out. Because slowing down Walker, that's your number one priority, yes. But what you can't do is slow down Walker to 110, 115, 125, and then have another guy complement it with the big game, whether it be through the passing game or what have you. You cannot let their quarterback. It's not a good passing team. You cannot let this team.
They got one receiver.
Get you sleeping.
They got one receiver. Plays. They got one receiver that's really good. The other receiver, Ricky White, the second, he got hurt. He's not playing this season. So I can't remember the receiver's name, but the quarterback and the receiver, they've been playing football together since they were in middle school. So they have a great rapport. So Stephen Banks, you need to be on your A game tomorrow. You need to be Denzel Burke. You need to be on your A game tomorrow because those two dudes have some good rapport with each other. So those are the two main weapons: the running back Walker and the receiver that I can't remember his name, but he's good. So those are the two guys. Focus on those two guys. We'll be fine.
Absolutely. I still think Ohio State's a 19-point favorite. I don't think they win by more than 19. I think that Mel Tucker just got that huge contract. Yes, some of it is what he has done to this point, but what Michigan State, their whole purpose of laying down this contract with Mel Tucker was, yes, to keep him away from LSU and USC and some of these other big jobs that have opened up, but it was also done to lay a foundation. Because too many times in life, and I hate this even in our everyday life, is sometimes, guys don't get paid until they've done something big, but at times it's hard to keep guys around long enough to do something big because you don't pay them properly. What Michigan State has figured out is we're not going to underpay Mel Tucker and say, hey, do something first before we pay you. He's already done something. They're not waiting for that big thing to happen. You know what the biggest thing in some of these programs that can happen is just the feeling of optimism, the feeling of hope, and the feeling of we got something here. That's Mel Tucker. There's a lot of coaches that get jobs that don't really make programs feel like they got a great foundation foundation. And that's what Mel Tucker, that's what he got paid for more than anything. But he got paid for was to lay that foundation, which he's already done, but also to compete and beat Ohio State. This Mel Tucker contract is a lot like what we see at Texas A&M with your former coach, of course, and that's in Jimbo Fisher. That's kind of what Mel Tucker is, except I think Mel Tucker is well on his way to creating something bigger and better and has a big opportunity here in the Big Ten. Tomorrow, not saying they have to beat Ohio State, but Mel Tucker, there has to be some life in that program. They have to show that, hey, they're on their way to being up there with Ohio State, and that's why they're going to come out motivated. They're going to come out and play hard. I just think that line is a little deceiving, but it will be interesting. Kev, who is your upsets? What are a couple upsets you have highlighted for tomorrow?
I got two in the NFL, and I got two in college football. The one that everybody's picking, I'm on that side too. I got Utah beating Oregon tomorrow. I think that Oregon is going to split with Utah. I think they're going to lose this week because they travel to Utah, number 24 Utah. We talked about it earlier in the week, their connection to Dayton, Ohio, with Travion Thompson, former running back over there at Dunbar. He's their leading running back at Utah, that power running game. I think that they're going to get Oregon this matchup, and then Oregon is going to beat them in the Pac-12 championship game. Then my second upset pick, I know you're going to love this, Iowa State. Your buddy Campbell, they're going to beat Oklahoma. They're going to beat Oklahoma and put Oklahoma out of their misery. And that's what I got. I got Utah over Oregon, and I got Iowa State over Oklahoma.
All right, my upsets in college football. I have my upset in college football is the number 10 team in the country beating Clemson. What? That doesn't make any sense. That's right. Clemson, not even in the top 25, is a 4.5-point favorite against the number 10 team in the country. If you wonder why people kind of laugh at these college football playoff rankings, is because, look, the whole purpose of the playoff is to put the 4 best teams in the playoff, right? But sometimes it makes us do foolish things like reward resumes like Wake Forest, who, hey, they've done their part. They won the games they're supposed to. Yes, they have a loss, but we got to reward them for all their wins. But honestly, we should just let Vegas decide who these top 4 teams are, because I think they're more on, into, look, I don't think that's really an upset if Clemson beats Wake Forest or if Wake Forest beats Clemson. But the fact that Clemson, a non-top 25 team, is a 4.5-point favorite over a top 10 team in Wake Forest kind of makes me sit there and think, yeah, Wake Forest, you're not really a top 10 team, but it is what it is. That's where we're at. But no, my upset of the week is this, and this is something we talk so much about what has to happen for Cincinnati to make the playoff that we haven't even focused on how big of a deal it would be for Cincinnati to lose. I think Cincinnati loses tomorrow. And has any show ever talked about, oh man, what does the field look like with Cincinnati out of the picture? Because we keep talking so much about who needs to go down for Cincinnati to make it that we haven't even thought about, well, when Cincinnati loses tomorrow, does that help Oklahoma? Does that help second Big Ten team? Does that help the SEC and guarantee 2 teams get in? Who does that help? Does it help Notre Dame? I mean, that's what I don't think we've spent enough time on. I think Cincinnati loses tomorrow, and then I think that creates the most chaos since the college football playoff poll started this season. I think that's my big upset of the week, and I think Cincinnati loses to SMU. That's the matchup. That's the big matchup for UC. That was the game that everybody was looking forward to, because at the time, the SMU was undefeated. And, we had a lot of talk about Sauce Gardner, the big time cornerback down there at Cincinnati. He really hasn't been tested a lot this season because people stay away from him, because it seems like every time they throw his way, he picks it off. But SMU, they throw it all over the lot. So he's going to be tested this weekend with a lot of shifty, smaller receivers and everything like that. And he's a taller corner. He's like 6'3". So, you know what I'm saying? He's not to break down and tackle. He's going to have to break down and deal with smaller, shifter receivers. So that's not a bad upset pick. I ultimately think that them sitting their running back forward last week to get him healthy for this week, because they're going to know they're going to need to run the ball effectively. I think they ultimately end up getting the win. I think it's going to be probably like a 7 to 10-point win for UC over SMU, but I think it's going to be an entertaining game. But don't be surprised, Maryland over Michigan. I will never utter the words I'm pulling for that team up north, but I want next week's game to mean something. So for the love of all that is holy, that team up north, you better do your damn job and take care of business. But right. Maryland, they have an offense that can put up some points on a good day. And I could see that team up north choking. It's what they do under Coach Harbaugh. And yes, if they lose to Maryland, I don't view it as them losing to Maryland. I look at that as them already losing to Ohio State because they know they're on the other side. This is a trap game for Michigan. This is a big trap game. Michigan State's not a trap game for Ohio State because Michigan State has their attention. Maryland, this is a trap game, and it's at Maryland. That's the crazy. It's at Maryland. I'm not calling this upset, but I will not be surprised if it happens. Michigan better be prepared. I think they will be, but my goodness, it would be typical Michigan to ruin that game next week by making it meaningless on behalf of that. So take care of business. But Maryland, it's at Maryland. They could put up points. Michigan, it's a trap game for them. That's my upset alert game. I'm not gonna call it though, but it does have the makings of it.
They got to win that game, man. They got to win that game because if they don't beat Maryland, Ohio State might put up 70 on them because they'll be checked out. They'll be checked out. All their dreams, all their hopes, all the hype going into this will be out the window. So they got to win this game, not only for themselves, but us as the viewing public. Let's be real here, man. We want an exciting game, and we want Ohio State to beat them and crush their hopes and dreams. That's what we want as fans. So, Buckeyes, let's handle our business. Let's do our part. And, hey, team up north, do your part. Help us out. Let's have a good time. Let's have a good time next Saturday. But we both got to take care of business this Saturday.
As we wrap the show up, Kev, a lot of big games in the NFL. How about the Chiefs and the Cowboys? The Chiefs are a 2.5-point favorite. The Cowboys will be without CeeDee Lamb. That's important, but that's going to be a fun one right there. The Bengals and the Raiders. Bengals coming off the bye week. They've lost to the Jets. They got blown out by the Browns. Go Browns. Can they end the losing streak? Can they take care of business against the Raiders? That's going to be key. The Browns have, look, they're a 12-point favorite at home with the Lions in town. Can they shake off last week's embarrassing loss against the Patriots? And it's not embarrassing to lose to the Patriots. It's embarrassing in how they did it. That's what was bad. But that's one I have my eye on. But my upset pick of the week, Kev, out of the NFL, Justin Fields and the Bears taking care of business at home with the Ravens. The Ravens have struggled. They lost to the Dolphins. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They got blown out by the Bengals. Then into the bye week, they won coming out. Then got embarrassed by the Dolphins. They're struggling. I think that Justin Fields, the ascending Justin Fields and the Bears, I see the Bears pulling off the upset at home against Baltimore.
That's not a bad pick. I looked at that. I thought about that, but I think the Ravens with that mini bye because they played that game on Thursday night.
Yep.
Yeah, so they got a little mini bye. Lamar went back to Louisville, got his jersey and his name put up in the Raptors and everything like that. You are right. That was cool. And so I think they'll be prepared for this game. And also Khalil Mack is officially out for the rest of the season. So that helps out a lot. My upset pick for the NFL is the Vikings over the Packers. The Packers are due for a loss. A real loss, a loss with Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback. The loss that they had to Kansas City with Jordan Love on limited practice, limited reps, and everything like that. Yes, it counts in the loss column, but I don't count it as a loss as Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers ain't going to go undefeated. You know what I'm saying? So it's time for them to take a loss. And I know I am the Kirk Cousins basher on here, and this is why I say stats lie. He has 18 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's about to ball out. He's about to ball out versus the Packers. Him, the receivers, Thielen, Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. I see a big offensive explosion from the Minnesota Vikings over the Green Bay Packers this week.
All right, good stuff, folks. It's been a fun week. Glad that we were still able to do the show, even though I've been under the weather, but glad to get back to normal, being back in the studio next week. Kevin, I'm glad you brought up stats. Stats, you can make them always sing and dance. How about this? The Cleveland Browns are the best team in the NFL.
Cap.
Hey. So, according to Pro Football Focus, Kev, the Browns are the only team in the top 10 in offensive grade efficiency, defensive grade efficiency, and special teams grade efficiency. They are the number 10 offense in the NFL. They are the number 4 defense in the NFL. And they are the 6th best special teams team in the NFL. They're the only team to be in the top 10 in all 3 of those. They're the best, most complete team, according to Pro Football Focus. And that, my friends, is why I don't like stat nerds. Because you can always make numbers sing and dance to tell some kind of story. But, hey, as long as you have these eyes, watch the games. No real Browns fan will tell you that they are the most well-rounded team in football. Not by a long shot. So, we'll see. All right, Kev, have a great weekend, man. Holiday help out. again, in Trotwood, Firehouse, 5469 Little Richmond Road. Any donations, small or large, again, for this holiday season. Thanksgiving meal items, anything you could donate, please. Faith Daniels, Kev Nash, Hot 1029, WROU, going to be out at the Firehouse in Trotwood all weekend long, accepting your donations. Faith Daniels living at the fire station because she cares more than Kev. I'm just joking. But Faith, it's so cool. She literally lives at the Firehouse for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It just collects donations all weekend long. She does such a great job, and we just want to make sure we're doing our part to help support that Firehouse, Trotwood Firehouse, all weekend long. Go make your donations. We appreciate all of you who've listened. Until next week, this has been the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. I got to figure out what Mikey likes. I'm inviting him to my Thanksgiving next week, by the way. Have a good weekend.
Later.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Hi, I'm Sales